All right. Hey, everybody. Tonight we're debating Christianity versus atheism, which is true. And we're starting right now with Wi Fi's opening statement. Thanks for being with us. Wi Fi, the floor is all yours.
Thanks for having me again, James. Always appreciate you. Leo, thanks for doing this with me. Should be fun. All right, so um, we didn't talk about time limits. Mine will probably go 10 minutes. If I'm going too long, just cut me off. Sorry, I'm a little long-winded sometimes. All right, tonight's debate prompt gives us both a burden of proof to try and prove that either atheism or Christianity is true. For me tonight, what I want to attempt to do is show that theism is necessarily true because of the very nature of knowledge. My argument will greatly limit the number of theistic worldviews, and from there, I will quickly, depending on time in the opening statement, if not, I'll bring it up in the open discussion portion, quickly provide refutations of each worldview left standing. My argument, this won't prove that Christianity itself is necessarily true, but it does raise the odds of it being true tremendously. It will also prove that atheism is necessarily false. I think if my argument accomplishes those two things, I will be the winner of this debate. So, knowledge is a justified true belief, right? In order to have knowledge, you must have a belief, you must have a reason or justification for this belief, and this belief must be true. How do we determine if something is actually true so that it counts as knowledge? Well, that's what justification is for. We take something to be true based on how strong the justification is for that belief or claim. So if I tell you that I know that Charlie Kirk is a time traveler, but my justification for it is that Candace Owens said that Charlie visited her in a dream and told her this, we wouldn't take that as true, right? That justification just doesn't work. Now, what if I told you that I know there are crackers in my pantry? My justification is that even though I never saw crackers in my pantry, again, Candace Owens had a dream and Charlie Kirk told her there were crackers in my pantry. All right. So, even if the crackers are actually there and this belief that they are actually there is true, based on the current justification, we would not assume this belief to be true. Now, if my justification is I opened up my pantry 3 seconds ago and saw them there, then we would assume that this belief is true. The justification level is high. So, justification, although different from truth, very different, is what we use in order to determine if something is actually true or not. We use know or knowledge in a colloquial sense, though, right? All the time. I know who the current president is. I know what time the football game starts later. I know my wife really likes dark chocolate. The way we colloquially talk about knowledge is different from how we talk about it in philosophy. An example, again, of colloquial language would be Aunt Betty kicked the bucket today. We all know what the person saying this means, but if we were to take this sentence and analyze it and ask the question, okay, what does this literally mean for Aunt Betty to kick a bucket? Well, that would mean she would have to find a bucket, pick her foot up, and swing it, hitting the bucket. Based on this analysis, this would be false, right? If Aunt Betty didn't kick the bucket. But if we use the colloquial understanding of the phrase, then we would understand that she died, and the claim would be true. My point here is that colloquial use of language is not useful when talking about epistemology. I'm going to introduce two terms here to kind of start off the argument. Infallibilism is something that claims that if someone knows something, it is impossible for them to be wrong. Knowledge requires indefeasibility under this view. Fallibilism, by contrast, holds that a belief can count as knowledge even if it is in principle revisable. So knowledge does not require indefeasibility. We are basically looking at what counts as good enough justification to determine if something that we believe is true, or in other words, counts as knowledge. So let's talk about why fallibilism can't be true. Let's say there is a lottery. Everyone in the world gets one ticket. The winning ticket is drawn. No one looks at it, and it's placed in an envelope and sealed. Let's say everyone believes they have a losing ticket. The justification is the probability. According to fallibilism, this counts as knowledge. That's an extremely small chance. There's an extremely small chance that anyone in this lottery example is wrong about having a losing ticket. However, for at least one person, this actually isn't knowledge. It's a justified belief that is false. See, fallibilism allows agents to be fully justified in claiming knowledge in cases where it is logically guaranteed that at least one such claim is false. And it provides no principled, non-circular criterion for distinguishing knowledge from just like a justified belief among epistemically identical agents. In other words, if you say yes, everyone in the lottery example has knowledge, knowledge doesn't have to be true and it becomes meaningless. If you say no, at least one person doesn't have knowledge, congratulations, you're now an infallibilist. Why? Because the fact that you have a winning ticket must be indefeasible. You already have 99.99% justification. Infallibilism requires guaranteed truth. Infallibilism holds that knowledge requires justification that entails truth, not merely makes it probable. This means that for any proposition known, error must be impossible, right? This is indefeasibility. Human cognitive faculties can't deliver infallibility. Human reasoning, perception, memory, and inference are all subject to error, limitation, and bias. No purely human epistemic process can secure truth with logical necessity, especially concerning metaphysical, moral, or universal claims. Infallible knowledge requires an infallible source. If infallible knowledge is possible at all, it must originate from a source that is itself incapable of error. An epistemic chain cannot terminate in certainty if every link is fallible. Only revelatory theism supplies such a source. Revelatory theism posits an omniscient, non-deceptive God who can communicate truth without error. Divine revelation uniquely satisfies the conditions required for infallible knowledge. Therefore, infallibilism presupposes revelatory theism. Without an infallible revealer, infallibilism is unattainable with revelation. With revelation, infallibilism becomes coherent. Thus, infallibilism is not religiously neutral. It implicitly depends on revelatory theism. So, I mean, Christianity isn't the only worldview that satisfies revelatory theism, right? We have Islam, Judaism, Mormonism, the Baha'i faith. We have Jehovah's Witnesses, Unitarians, Black Hebrew Israelites, Zoroastrianism, Hinduism, Sikhism. And honestly, I don't think there's any more. Maybe Leo knows of another one. But these are not only religions that believe in a God who created everything, but that this God has also revealed himself through some sort of scripture, a prophet, or something like that. And part of that revelation is the necessary attributes that this God must hold in order to give us infallible knowledge. One of them being that he knows all things, the other being that he would not lie, that he's not deceptive. So if it meets those two criteria and maybe some more, we can talk about it, then it would fall under this category of revelatory theism that allows for infallible knowledge. The problem is with Islam, for example, I'll just go through Islam and Judaism just for time's sake. And then if you want to bring up the other ones, we can. The Quran explicitly affirms the Torah and the gospel as divine revelation, Surah 3:3 and 546. Yet the Bible teaches doctrines the Quran directly denies, most notably the Trinity, the crucifixion of Jesus, and salvation. If the Bible is true, the Quran is false. If the Quran is true, its affirmation of the Bible is false. Either way, the Quran undermines its own claim to consistency and divine origin. Lastly, Judaism. Daniel 9 provides a time-bound prophecy, placing the Messiah before the destruction of the Second Temple, identifying him as one who would be cut off. That timeline points squarely to the first century, lining uniquely with Jesus of Nazareth. And Judaism's continued expectation of a future Messiah contradicts its own prophetic framework. If the Messiah did not come, then Daniel's prophecy failed. An unacceptable conclusion for Judaism. And that's all I'll have for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that opening statement. And folks, if it's your first time here at Modern Day Debate, I'm your host, Dr. James Coons. We are a fully neutral channel hosting debates on science, religion, and politics, and only debates. If you haven't yet, a couple of quick housekeeping things. First, hit that subscribe button as we have many more debates coming up, but also, as you can see at the bottom right of your screen, this is the big one. It is going to be ginormous in Houston, Texas on Saturday, January 31st. In other words, exactly 2 weeks from now, DebateCon 7, our Modern Day Debate conference is happening. As you can see at the bottom right of your screen, it is packed with heavyweight debaters, David Wood, Apostate Prophet, Daniel Hakikachu, Inspiring Philosophy, Mike Jones. You name it, they're going to be there. Grab your tickets at the link in the description box right now. We're expecting to sell out. With that, we're going to kick it over to Leo. Thanks for being with us, Leo. The floor is all yours.
Thank you much, James. I've just got, I think, about 3 points here that I'll just briefly cover for why I think, more specifically, naturalism, but obviously naturalism would assume atheism is more probably true than theism or Christianity specifically even. And the first reason is that I think naturalism is just intrinsically simpler than Christianity is. All, particularly in terms of the ontology of the worldviews, all naturalism supposes is that the world that we can see and understand and the world that we are a part of is all which exists. Theism, or Christianity particularly, posits more than that. It posits that there is a separate ontology, wholly different, fundamentally dissimilar, and entirely novel to the one that we know and experience in our everyday lives that exists, and that there are a variety of agents and powers and what have you that are contained within such a world. And so I think that in virtue of positing having less ontological commitments, naturalism is intrinsically simpler than Christianity. And I think that's a point in favor of naturalism or even atheism over Christianity. The second point is the anthropogenic origins of Christian beliefs, theistic beliefs, I would say more broadly, but for the purposes of this debate, I'll focus specifically on Christianity. We have a pretty good idea of how Christianity developed. We have an understanding of the kinds of themes and traditions and cultures that existed at the time from which Christianity was both influenced and from which it developed. And we understand how Christianity has evolved with time and with culture. And we understand that there are a variety of differences even within Christianity, not to mention between Christianity, and a variety of other faiths that seem to show a level of incongruity within Christianity that I think lends a level of inaccuracy to the kinds of statements that Christianity wants to make about the world. And I think that in virtue of that, atheism and even naturalism it is a better explanation for the way that the world is rather than Christianity. And the third point is I think that theism more broadly, specifically the idea of God, is an explanatorily impotent idea. I don't think that there's any laws or causes or mechanisms or processes or dynamics that can be given through which God can be used to explain features of the world. However, I think that within an atheistic or a naturalistic worldview, most atheists or naturalists would appeal to the methods of science to account for the way that the world is and how the world operates and how the world behaves and how the things around us occur and why they occur. Whereas I don't think God can be used as any sort of device for providing any sort of meaningful explanation for the world around us. So I would just say that the notion of God, which Christianity is obviously going to appeal to in a number of instances, I think the notion of God is just an explanatorily impotent idea. And it is for these three reasons that I think that at best, naturalism is more probably true than Christianity, and at worst, mere atheism is more probably true than Christianity. And I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that opening as well, Leo. And folks, if you haven't noticed, at the bottom right of your screen, the poster has changed just somewhat. It's still about DebateCon 7, but this is saying if you are in Australia or Antarctica or wherever, you're like, I can't make it in person, James, you have an option to watch it in person. This is a perk for our Final Word channel members. So if you click the join button, you'll see the different membership tiers. Those at the Final Word get to watch it all live. Now, we'll release it for the public afterward. But if you want to watch it live, join the Final Word membership level. And with that, we're going to jump in to the open dialogue. Thank you very much, gentlemen. The floor is all yours.
Thank you, James. I just have a couple, since you just went through your opening. I just have a couple questions about it. Let's see, I wrote some things down here. I think your main argument for the positive of naturalism or mere atheism is that it's intrinsically simpler and has less ontological commitments. Did I miss anything?
That, and I think that the notion of God, which is a theme that I think Christianity intrinsically appeals to, is an explanatorily impotent notion. I don't think it explains anything, or I don't think that it's meaningful to adduce it as an explanation for anything.
Is that a positive point for your position or a negative point against mine? Both?
I would say that it's a negative point against theism broadly, which obviously would entail
Gotcha.
Christianity. And I think that in virtue of that it's more probably true, or it's atheism is more probably true in virtue of that.
Gotcha. Cool. I just wanted to separate the claims to kind of go through them.
Mhm.
So intrinsically simpler, that's different than has less ontological commitments, or is that the same thing?
I would argue that something being intrinsically simpler can be summarized in virtue of just merely having less ontological commitments. Maybe some people might choose to define it in terms of some other commitments other than ontological, but I think for the purposes of this discussion, I'm just referring to there being less ontological commitments. And I do want to clarify that I don't think that point isolated from all other points is like a major point in support of either atheism or naturalism, but I think that tied with a broader case or with a variety of other points one might appeal to, that it builds a cumulative case. It can build a cumulative case.
Okay. And so how do you count ontological commitments?
How do you mean?
Like how do you know how many ontological commitments you have as a naturalist or a mere atheist?
I just look at it in terms of the kinds of ontologies that are being purported to exist. Naturalism would suppose there's only one ontology that exists, and that would be the natural world. Whereas a theist, Christian specifically, is positing that there's a natural world, but there is also another ontological realm, and that would be this. Some might choose the term supernatural, some might not like that term, some might call it the spiritual realm, but it's this realm that obviously the language might not be agreed upon by some people. I'm looking at you, Thomists, but that like God occupies this non-natural realm, so to speak, that the realm that God occupies, the ontology that God has, is not a natural ontology. And so there's a natural ontology plus something else rather than just a natural ontology. And that just seems to me to entail that if someone supposed that the natural ontology was all that really existed, that would intrinsically have less ontological commitments than naturalism plus.
Okay. Now, I think that's fair. So you're saying one ontology versus at least two. Now, how does that, I mean, I guess I could agree that maybe that would mean you would have a less burden of proof, less things to prove are true. But how does that make naturalism more probably true than, say, Christianity?
I think that because we prefer simpler models that can explain as much as we need them to explain. If you've got two models and they both equally explain something, but one can do so with positing less ontologies, then people are going to favor that model. Those are the kinds of models that humans tend to favor. Simpler models that can account for the things that we need them to explain.
When you say account for, does that mean that the accounting is true?
I mean, I would say that explanations, at least in this sense, are probably going to be factive to some degree.
So in that sense, then, why is a simpler explanation preferred if the longer, more detailed, or more committed explanation is also true?
I don't know if the difference would be summed in terms of like measures of truth so much as it is that like if we just grant that what we observe is equally consistent with two theories, but one theory posits more things in order to account for that data rather than another theory which posits less things, then there's a tendency towards the theory that posits less things. Why that's a preference is something that has been debated by philosophers of science for over 100 years. We're not sure particularly why we prefer simpler theories, but we prefer simpler theories and simpler models when it comes to explanation. Some have posited that we might not ever have an explanation for that particular preference, and that the posit that we can have explanations for the kinds of preferences that are primary to our understanding of science and its development would effectively be that it would effectively amount to some sort of solution to the problem of induction, which is something that's not going to be possible. So,
because I would agree that the preference is there, right? It'd be hard to disagree with that, but I don't know if I would agree that that preference makes something true or points.
No, I
to
don't
something
think
being true.
preferences. I think I would agree with that. A preference in and of itself isn't going to make something true.
So then, if it relies on a preference, even one that we would agree that most people have, how would that point to the thing being true then?
Well, so I don't think that sort of these explanatory models are going to be true in virtue of our preference for them. I think that they're going to be true in virtue of a variety of other features. Other theoretical virtues is a term that's heard frequently. But I do think that our preference for certain explanatory models over others is going to be in virtue of those theoretical virtues, in virtue of the things that are reduced to account for the features of the world that we observe, and the simplicity and consistency and parsimony and a precedence contained within those models.
Yeah. And again, I just to repeat kind of what I said is the parsimony itself is a preference. So if you're saying this worldview is more parsimonious than this other worldview, therefore this more parsimonious worldview is more likely to be true, I don't see how it connects the preference of simpler explanations with the truth of simpler explanations.
So parsimony is not itself a preference. Parsimony refers to this idea of simplicity, that something it has less assumptions, posits a simpler ontology, what have you, than some other model. Now, that a model does so, that a model is parsimonious, is generally a preference. I wouldn't say it's the be all end all of a model. I mean, if a model is more parsimonious than a different one, but cannot explain as much as the other model, then obviously you wouldn't necessarily prefer the more parsimonious model there. So parsimony alone is not what's going to determine the models that we prefer, but it is a preference in the models that we have.
Gotcha. And I'm just harping on it because it seemed like that was one of your main points in your opening statement. If you want, let's stick here and talk more about naturalism instead of changing it to my worldview. We totally can.
Sure.
I'd like to ask you questions based on my opening statement about knowledge and everything, but we can save that. And I want to give, obviously, you the time to ask me questions as well. But as far as naturalism goes, you're saying that everything in the world has the same ontology.
Yeah.
Okay. So that would include the mind.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you're not saying like the mind emerges into this other ontology that relies on the physical. You're saying that the mind itself is the same ontology as the desk in front of me.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So then the mind would be exactly the same as the brain, or how would you kind of explain that?
I would argue that the mind is an emergent feature of the brain and its functioning, the processes and relations that the brain and the variety of parts that it has engage in as the brain metabolizes, much the same way that digestion isn't in the stomach or what have you. It's something that emerges from the function of the stomach and in the small intestine and the large intestine and a variety of other organs. I think even the kidneys are involved in a little bit in digestion and all of that. It emerges out of the function of all of those parts.
So where does this emergent feature exist?
The emergent feature, it sort of exists in the processes and functions of the brain.
So it exists in the brain?
In its functioning, yes.
In its functioning. So can you point to it?
No.
Why not?
Because it isn't like an object like that. It would be something like momentum. Like I could use momentum to describe an object. Momentum is in fact a fundamental feature in physics, but you couldn't point to the momentum in an object.
So then could you say that momentum doesn't exist?
No, I think momentum exists.
So how do you square that with naturalism?
Momentum is a feature of the natural world.
Right. And this feature doesn't exist in the natural world.
I think it does.
How can you when you say something exists, like you
I would
can
say
point
momentum.
to it?
Well, at the fundamental level, momentum would just be a fundamental feature of elementary particles.
So what then, like, if something exists in the natural world, I can pick it up, I can see it, I can look at it.
I don't think so. I don't think
it.
that something being natural entails that something is like some sort of macro scale material object. You couldn't hold a quark in your hand. A quark is still a natural object.
Well, you can't hold it in your hand, but you can. It's still a physical object.
Sure.
Yeah. So I'm asking where this feature is in physical reality, the mind.
The mind, it's not really like in something so much as it is in processes.
Okay. So the processes themselves are physical, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we can point to those exist. But if the mind is not the process, it's emergent from the process, where does that exist?
Well, that's what it means to say it's emergent from the process. As the process occurs, this is a sort of a spandrel feature of that process.
Right. But if something emerges from something else, that it's different from that, right?
Not necessarily, no.
So then the mind is just the processes of the brain. It's not actually
Mhm.
something different than the processes.
It's what the brain does, not necessarily what the
Okay.
brain is, but what the brain does.
Okay. So it's not what the brain is, but what the brain does. I think that's fair enough. So if the mind is simply what the brain does, then the beliefs you hold, are they your own?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
How?
I might share similar beliefs with other people, but
Right. What caused you to come to the conclusions, to the beliefs that you hold?
probably a variety of things resulting from just the frameworks that I use for understanding the world and the experiences that I have. I'm not sure anyone would be able to give a complete causal picture of how they've come to believe the things that they believe.
Yeah, it'd probably be pretty narcissistic if someone attempted to. So I hear you. I guess what I'm trying to get at here is are there things outside of you that cause you to believe things?
I think so.
Okay. And is there anything inside of you that also causes to believe things?
Probably, yeah.
All right. And those processes inside of you that cause you to believe things, are they also caused by things outside of you?
Maybe somewhere in the causal chain,
Okay.
perhaps. I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
if that's
Ultimately,
I think that's something that's been debated by philosophers for a while, is whether all of our beliefs are fundamentally a result of our perceptual experience of the external world, or whether there are some like truly intrinsic beliefs that we have. I think that's at least one thing that marks empiricists from people who are not empiricists.
yeah. And maybe I'm not doing a good job here, but I'm trying to get to the brain itself is just a physical thing. Is it kind of like, do you believe it's like an input and output machine?
I mean, I think that would be a very simplistic way of describing it.
Yeah. So if you put the same inputs into uh two identical brains, are you going to get the same output?
Potentially, no.
Why not?
Because the structures that which the inputs go through before they become outputs could be different.
So the same inputs in the same exact two of the same exact brains. That's what I'm asking.
Wait, I guess how do you mean two of the same exact brains
Like
in this instance?
there is nothing different about brain A and brain B.
How deep are you going with this?
I'm
Like, are you
ultimately
saying that
asking about determinism.
every single experience they've ever had is exactly the same in all ways?
Yeah, very weird hypothetical.
Because at that point, I just wouldn't be two brains to me. That would just be the one same brain.
Well, not if they're two
identical.
physically different brains.
Well, but then that would just entail all physical facts are identical, which I think would entail they'd just be the same brain. I mean, if they're literally identical.
Well, if I have,
I mean, I think
I
this
have
kind
two
of
lights
gets,
on my desk that are identical. I bought two of the same exact lights.
but
They're not the same.
see,
light.
this comes down to like what we mean by identity, and then like theories of individuation. People, oh shit. So in metaphysics, there's in like
If it
notions of
helps, I'm asking about
individuation.
determinism.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
like getting to this idea that if two things are like identical in literally all aspects, like in any and every fact that could be described about object X could be described about object Y, such that you couldn't distinguish between the two of them. Whether or not that constitutes there actually being two separate objects there or not depends on theories of individuation, how we individuate between objects. Now, somebody who holds to something in metaphysics that's known as high-ixeity might say that there's this sort of intrinsic thisness to objects, such that even if they were truly identical in all ways, there would still be a thisness to them that is not identical across them, such that they would be two separate objects. But I mean, I don't think you came here to have a discussion about theories of
this is
individuation. I certainly didn't.
way different, too deep for me. I'm asking, like, honestly, if you had like two calculators, right? You bought two calculators at the store, same kind. Even like the difference, like you said, if there needs to be some difference, they have difference in location, right? If I put 10 plus 10 into this one and 10 plus 10 into this one, they get the same output, right? Same input, same output. Right? It's because they're simple enough. You're saying brains are way more complex. So like even the
there's way more
slightest
structures
difference
and relations involved in how inputs are processed and the number of outputs that they produce and the way that they produce those outputs, that it's just, I don't know the scale at which you would have to look at a brain and the scale at which you would have to consider them to be identical to get them to produce the same kinds of outputs.
Yeah. And I'll just, because of time, I'll finish this line of argument as quickly as I can. And then I do want to run one line of argument based on my opening statement, and then I'll just give the floor completely to you if that's fair.
Sure.
So I'm asking, are you a determinist? I'll just ask you outright.
I am a compatibilist.
Okay. In what sense?
That I think that this notion of determinism, at least in some sense of determinism, is compatible with the notion of free will.
Right. And how though? Are you just changing definitions? Like, are you a weak compatibilist, a strong compatibilist? How does that?
Well, so there are two notions of determinism that are discussed in the literature, at least that I've seen. There could probably is others, but there's this notion of causal determinism, which is where
I just want to be sure that it does come full circle back to theism, because free will by itself can be such a big topic.
Okay. If you want, I'll just lay out my argument. I'm pretty sure you've heard this before, and then you can attack it from, instead of me just asking you what you believe and trying to set up my argument to what you believe. That might be quicker.
Sure, I'm good.
All right. So if determinism is true, or even some form of compatibilism that looks very much like determinism, then everything physical would be determined by prior causes, including the beliefs that you hold. And if the beliefs that you hold are determined by prior causes, then we wouldn't be able to know if your belief is true or if my belief is true. Because even the weighing out of these beliefs, determining if they're true or not, I don't know why I can't think of the word, that would also be determined.
Yeah, so that, to me, that sounds like causal determinism, where there are causes that are antecedent to certain effects, that the effects are determined in virtue of being caused by those things. And this is where I was going to go, is that the difference between causal determinism, which is that, and then gnomic determinism, as it's called, which is sort of that things are they just follow the laws of physics. They're sort of determined by the laws of physics, but the processes themselves could still be stochastic, where there aren't any specific antecedent conditions that are truly sufficient for the production of the effect, but that the effect will follow with the laws of physics. That's the sort of gnomic determinism that would be separate from a specific causal determinism. So at least with respect, just to clarify my position, at least with respect to like the mind and free will, I'm not sure I'm a causal determinist, at least not with respect to the whole picture, but I'm certainly a gnomic determinist. So I don't know if I would grant that all of the decisions that an agent makes are specifically causally determined.
And how does that square with naturalism?
I think just fine, because even though it wouldn't be causally determined, it would still be gnomically determined. It would still be in line with the laws of physics, which I don't see as being problematic for a naturalist worldview.
So then if it's gnomically determined, would that gnomically determine your beliefs?
I mean, in the sense that my beliefs would, what produces the beliefs that I have are going to be consistent. Those various processes are going to be consistent with the laws of physics. Yes.
So it's not really determined then. It's just
Well,
limited by the laws
that's
of
just the
physics, yeah.
term. That's just what the term is in the literature. Gnomic determinism being this idea that things are determined by the laws of physics, which just means that they follow with whatever the laws of physics happen
Yeah.
to be.
So because you're not a causal determinist, this argument will probably take much longer because we would talk about like how you could have free will and natural. I won't go down that rabbit hole. All right. So back to my opening statement, and then like I said, I'll give you the floor. James, we still have like 45 minutes in the opening discussion.
Do you have a good amount of time? Yeah, I'd say
Cool.
about that.
All right. I just want to make sure I give him a fair enough time and not take it all. Let's see here. So you're familiar with the distinction of infallibilism. Do you remember how I kind of cashed those out?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you agree or disagree with the way I explained it?
I don't think so.
Okay. Now, do you already fall in one of those camps?
I would be a fallibilist.
Yeah. Why?
Because I don't think that knowledge entails certainty.
Okay. So you can know things without being certain.
That's correct.
Okay. Do you remember my lottery example? You want me to say it one more time?
Yeah, if you could go through it one more time, please.
Yeah, it's quick. Let's say there's a lottery. Everyone in the world gets one ticket. The winning ticket is drawn. No one looks at it, and it's placed in an envelope and sealed. Let's say everyone believes they have a losing ticket. The justification is the probability. According to fallibilism, this counts as knowledge. Is that true? Do you agree with that?
I don't think that in and of itself would necessarily count as knowledge, no.
Why not?
Because they can't know that it's true that they have lost. They can only believe that they have lost.
Isn't that fallibilism?
No, I would say that fallibilism is the idea that one can know things, but that one doesn't need certainty to know them.
Right. So
it's possible that even the things that we think that we could know, we could be wrong about. Now, I would say that I'm what I would call a limited fallibilist. I think that there are things I cannot be wrong about, like say that bachelors are unmarried men. I don't think I can be wrong about that, just because of what the term means.
That would not be fallible. You'd be an infallibilist.
Well, only about certain things.
Yeah, but that would still, like, infallibilism holds that there are things that you can know and not be wrong about. They'd be indefeasible. But then I would just simply ask then, because you're kind of holding two different views. How would you determine if something is like, you're saying this is knowledge, but also like something you could be wrong about is knowledge? How are those two the same thing?
Because they're both some form of justified true belief, or JTB plus perhaps.
So then at what point in fallibilism, like at what point does your confidence level reach high enough, your certainty level reach high enough in order for something to go from justified belief to knowledge?
That it's true.
All right. And how would you know that it's true?
So, I mean, there's a variety of perhaps deductive or inductive methods, a variety of empirical methods one could use to determine that something is true.
Would you have to be certain that it's true?
No.
Okay. What level?
I have no idea. I think that's probably going to differ between people.
That's
I take
fine.
certainty to be some measure of the confidence that an agent has in the truth of a proposition, but not a statement about whether the proposition is itself true, which is why I attach knowledge and certainty, as I think most epistemologists probably do.
Right, but I don't we use certainty in like these two different ways. Like you said, one's about like your confidence in the belief itself. The other way that we use certainty is that it is absolutely true or some way. That's why I use the word indefeasibility.
I don't know what absolutely true means.
And
is that just something that's like necessarily true?
Yeah, we don't even need to get into all of that. That's why I use the word indefeasibility. It's much easier. It's just something that you cannot be wrong about. There is no defeasible property. Like there's no
I would just say that be something that's necessarily true. That
that's fine.
At least within some given schema, it cannot evaluate as false.
Right. So
it cannot be false, at least within the schema.
Right. So infallibilism says that's the only thing you count as knowledge.
Yeah, I don't say that knowledge requires necessarily true.
Okay.
Things being necessarily true.
So then you would have to say, in my example, the lottery example, that those beliefs are knowledge.
I don't think so.
Why? Why not? The level of certainty, or however you want to put it, is 99.99% or higher.
Sure, but certainty doesn't determine truth. Certainty is a measure of
Okay.
confidence that an agent has in something being true, but isn't a statement about whether it is true.
Okay,
It could be false, and they could be very certain that it's true. There are a lot of people that believe false things, and they're very certain that they're true.
Okay, so like the reason you would say something is true is based on the justification, correct?
No, I don't think so.
All right, so then give me a statement.
People can have justified false beliefs.
Yes.
Both me and
Right.
you probably have beliefs that we're justified in having, but that are false.
No, this is where the difference in
Probably, I think
infallibilism
so.
and fallibilism comes in. But here's the thing. When you say that you know something is true, like just give me something you know that is true.
That the sun emits electromagnetic radiation.
Okay. What is your justification for this belief?
That I can see the electromagnetic radiation that the sun emits.
And how do you know this belief is true?
Because I can see the electromagnetic radiation that the sun emits.
The reason you know something is true is based on your justification. You just gave me the same answer twice.
Well, no, I'm justified in that. And I can know that it's true because I can walk outside and then feel it.
It's the same thing. Your justification and how you know it's true is the same thing. That's what knowledge is. Knowledge is having the belief.
Justified in believing that something is true, but what makes it true isn't my justification for believing it. It's the actual emission of the electromagnetic radiation.
I understand. I'm not saying your justification is what makes something true. I'm saying the reason you know it's true is because of your justification.
I think justification relates to our ideas about things being true. Yeah, of course.
Right. You can't.
But I don't think that it guarantees truth in any sense of.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that at all. But I'm just saying like the truth value in knowledge, right? There's like 3 values you could say: belief, justification, truth. We have the belief. Now we move to the justification. So you have this justification. Now you need to know if it's true in order to meet the 3 requirements. The only way you know something is true is based on your justification.
I wouldn't say that we know things are true because we're justified in believing that they're true. I think that
I didn't say that.
We know that things are true. I mean, I think that there isn't like one specific way that we know that things are true. I think it depends on what's being examined.
Yeah,
like I know that the sun emits electromagnetic radiation because of a variety of empirical measures that I can do and my direct perceptive experience. But if I said that bachelors are unmarried men, well, I know that's true, but not because of any sort of like empirical features of the world, but because just what the meanings of the terms are. Just it's analytically true.
Because of your justification.
Well, no, it's analytically true. It's true. The truth is derived from the meaning of the terms with something like bachelors or unmarried men, not because I'm justified in believing that it's true. I'm justified in believing that it's true because I understand the meanings of the terms and I understand the notion of the sort of the monotonicity that's entailed there in that term.
Yeah. So do you know that a married bachelor, what was the statement you said about married bachelors?
Bachelors are unmarried men?
Yes, you know that. But you don't have justification for it?
Oh, I'm justified in believing it. Yeah.
Okay, so if you have justification for it, you just said you didn't earlier.
Oh no, I said I have justification for it. I said that it's not true in virtue of it being justified.
Right. So, and I've never said that once. I disagree with that. But I agree with you. I've never said that once. The whole point I'm trying to make is the only way you know something is true is based on your justification. If you have no justification for something, can you know it's true?
Probably not, but
no,
hell, there could be some.
It could be true.
Maybe something.
Right, but you just wouldn't know it.
Yeah, that wouldn't be knowledge.
Could be true.
It'd be belief.
Right. Okay. So, the only way in order to know something is you have to have justification for it. This isn't controversial.
Well, I mean, I think justification is constitutive of knowledge.
Yeah,
so but it's not the defining feature of knowledge. There are at least 2 other things.
Yeah. So the only way you know if something is true is based on your justification.
I don't think so.
Okay, give me another way you can know something is true, because you just said to me you can't know if something is true if you don't have justification.
We can examine deductive inferences.
Okay. Are those justifications?
Like I said, a bachelor is an unmarried man is not true in virtue of me believing it or accepting it or feeling that I'm justified.
And again, I've never said that.
It's true in virtue of the meanings of the terms.
Right, but the only way you know it's true is based on a justification.
No, I know it's true because I know what the words mean. And I'm
Are there any
justified in
points?
believing that it's true because I understand what the words mean.
Are there
No,
any points from your guys' openings that you hadn't gotten to touch on yet?
Well, I understand that you're trying to move the conversation on and make it more interesting here, but this is like a wall that we're hitting that I'm not under, like, I don't want to accuse Leo of being bad faith here, but it seems like every time I bring this up, he's giving me justifications of how he knows things are true and then saying they're not justifications. And if I just stop here and move on, my argument falls to the ground. And so, like, I've done enough of these debates where this happens to me because we hit this wall where, like, we don't know where to go, and then I drop the argument and it looks like I didn't even make the argument. So I'm just trying to avoid that.
No problem.
Yeah.
I think if you can give the big picture, just in terms of for anybody who's either, so in other words, it's okay to use a lot of time during the open dialogue, but sometimes people jump in mid chat or midstream and they're like, wait, hold on a second. I don't under, so they didn't get like the first part. So if you can just give a brief summary.
Absolutely. Yeah.
To
So
draw the big picture.
My argument here is that fallibilism fails. Fallibilism is the idea that you can know something and it could be revisable. Like, you could be wrong about it, but if you have a good enough justification for it, then you know it. Infallibilism is the opposite of that, which means that you only know things that you cannot be wrong about. There does not exist a defeater for this claim, a possible defeater. So what I'm trying to push on here is that Leo is a fallibilist. I'm an infallibilist. I'm saying fallibilism is necessarily false, and based on the argument I'm giving. And if that's the case, infallibilism must be true. But the only way you can have infallibilism is with revelatory theism. So if we want, we could talk a little bit more about fallibilism because I want to really dig into this point. But we can kind of concede it for argument's sake, because I don't know if you'd agree that infallibilism, that revelatory theism is the only way you can have infallibilism. So we could talk about that as well.
Of course not.
Okay. So let me, if that's okay, James, if I think that's fair.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. I'll just say this about fallibilism then. It seems like you're saying you don't need to be certain in order to have knowledge, or you don't.
That's correct.
All right. And again, this word certain always comes up. It's always sticky, but I'm using certain. I'm going to Google real quick because there's different definitions of certain. Known for sure and established beyond doubt. That's the way I'm using it.
No, that is not the way I'm using it.
Okay. Well, that's the way I'm using it. So you would disagree with that?
Yeah.
Then that's infallibilism. You're not a fallibilist.
No, I don't think so.
So you can know things. What is fallibilism?
I think fallibilism is the idea that certainty isn't required to have knowledge, that something doesn't need to be known with some level of certainty in order to be known.
Not if you're not using that definition of certainty I gave you.
Yeah, which the definition you gave isn't the definition that I would use.
All right, so then that's not fallibilism if you're not using my definition of certainty in that context. If you're just using certainty,
I think that it is fallibilism because I'm using the word certainty the way that epistemologists would use the word certainty.
If I give you a definition from IEP, would you accept that?
It depends on the article that is being cited.
It's literally just iep.utm.edu/fallible, FALLIBIL. It's like their staple definition of fallibilism. And it just says, fallibilism is the epistemological thesis that no belief, theory, view, thesis, and so on can ever be rationally supported or justified in a conclusive way.
Yeah, I'd need to understand what they mean by in a conclusive way. If they're referring to some sort of like certainty there. Or...
Yeah, well, not certainty in the sense of confidence in a belief, like a subjective confidence level in a belief. Obviously, that doesn't matter with knowledge. What they're saying is like somebody can be wrong about something and have knowledge.
No, I don't. I think knowledge entails truth, but fallibilists can grant that.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't.
Fallibilists do grant that.
Yeah.
So,
well,
so let me read from my own source here from Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. Like knowledge, certainty is an epistemic property of beliefs. In a derivative way, certainty is also an epistemic property of subjects. S is certain that P, just in case S is believed that P is certain. That's the way I'm using certainty.
okay, right. But in what
Certainty is a measure of
definition?
the confidence
Can
that an
you-
agent has that their belief is true, but it doesn't
Right.
it's not constitutive of the truth of the belief.
So then, can you find a definition of fallibilism on SEP that uses certainty in that context?
I probably could. I don't know if I should really spend the time trying to
Yeah,
find.
I don't think that you can. Fallibilism and infallibilism is understood very well, and it has nothing to do with confidence levels or certainty. It should not be in the definition at all, unless you're using certain in the way I described it, because there are different definitions of certain. Now, moving on to last thing about fallibilism, I promise. Fallibilism, where is it? In my lottery example, you're saying that the reason you can't know that you have a losing ticket is because you aren't 100% certain, or not. All right, you can't be sure of what the winning ticket is, right?
What's that?
In my lottery example, you're saying that the reason you can't know that you have a losing ticket is because
Because you can't establish that it's true.
right, 100%. You can.
Well, to
Say-
no percent can you establish that it's true. You
Yes, you
just can't
can.
establish that
You
it's true.
All right, so what? Because there is a truth of the matter, correct? In the example,
There is a truth of the matter, but you can't
Right.
establish what that is. You can't
And
know what that is
fallibilism is
until you're
saying-
told what the numbers are.
right? So fallibilism is saying there is a truth of the matter. You just
Mhm.
can never fully conclusively know what the truth of the matter is.
Until the numbers are revealed, yes.
No, in fallibilism, you can never. Because here's the thing: even within the example
If
where
you're- if you're a
hold on,
fallibilist and you're given the numbers that are the winning numbers, then you know what the winning numbers are because you can see. what the
not in
winning
a
numbers are.
conclusive way.
It doesn't need to be conclusive. It doesn't need to be
Exactly.
like. It doesn't need to.
So
yeah,
if it doesn't need to be
require
conclusive,
certainty.
then you can say you know you have a losing ticket based on the odds alone,
No, you can't.
because there's a chance that you're wrong. Correct?
Yeah, you can't
Thank you.
establish the truth.
That's
condition of knowledge.
infallibilism.
That's
Because
not
there's a chance
infallibilism.
you could be wrong.
Both fallibilists and infallibilists grant that there was a truth condition to knowledge. The truth is
Right.
constituted with
But
knowledge.
fallibilism says it can be knowledge, even if you could be wrong.
No.
All right. Well, I mean, we just
Again, both
fundamentally disagree on the
fallibilists and
meanings of infallibilism and fallibilism. I
Yeah,
think
no,
the
like,
audience
but
will
like
see
this is
that
just
I'm right
basic
there.
epistemology. Both fallibilists and
I know,
infallibilists
it's-
agree that truth is constitutive of knowledge.
Yes, but
I mean,
just-
to get super
all right.
technical,
Look.
a large percentage of epistemologists don't even think that you can actually do any sort of meaningful analysis on knowledge at all. So,
Okay, so if you're an infallibilist would say empirical knowledge is actually not knowledge, right? An infallibilist.
I have no idea. I don't know. I'm not an infallibilist. I don't know what they would say.
I mean, that's a very basic concept in infallibilism. I mean, you're trying to
In-
argue to me about the definitions of something where
So
you just
wait, hold on. I just want to make sure I didn't potentially mishear what you said.
okay.
Fallibilists would say that
In-
empirical knowledge is not. Oh, an
Infallibilist
infallibilist. Yeah,
would
I
say-
don't know what infallibilists would say. So
Well,
I'm not one. I don't.
like, for example, you can't trust that your senses are 100% reliable, right?
I mean, I think that just depends on who you ask. Some people might have 100% confidence in their
It's
perceptive
not about
faculties.
confidence. All right. Your faculties, all of our faculties, no one has 100% reliable senses. You can agree with that?
Oh, reliability of our senses? No, they're
Yeah.
they're not 100% reliable.
Okay.
We see.
So
fake
then it
shit all the
fails
time.
an epistemic chain, right? So this is where infallibilists get a lot of crap all the time, because they're like, the reason fallibilists exist is they're like, you're crazy because you can't say I know this phone exists. That's why they use these fallibilism, because it allows them to say, even though my senses are not 100% reliable, I can say I know my phone exists because this is common sense.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can do that. Yeah.
Okay. But in my lottery example, you're saying you can't do that.
You can't know that you have the winning ticket.
Yeah, the losing ticket.
Of course you can't. You haven't established a truth condition
Then
for knowledge.
with the same standard, you can't know that your phone in your hand exists.
Yes, I can. I can establish the truth
All right,
condition for
we'll
knowledge.
move on. To the next part. Revelatory theism is the only way you can have infallible knowledge. But you said earlier, again, this goes directly against fallibilism. So you're not a fallibilist, but we'll disagree there. You said there are things that you can know infallibly.
Yes, there is, of course.
Okay, what are those things?
That bachelors are unmarried men. It's one
Okay.
thing that I know with
How do
100% certainty.
Why is that infallible knowledge?
Because it's true in virtue of what the words mean.
Right, and how do you know what the words mean?
Because we define what the words mean.
Okay, but how do you know what we defined the words to mean?
Because we get to define what the words mean.
Yes, who's we?
Language
Who's
is
we?
we is human, so languages are human
Okay.
conventions.
And who told you what those words mean?
I came to understand what those words mean culturally.
Yeah, somebody told you.
Well, no, nobody told me. Hey, this
Nobody
is what
told you?
bachelor means.
You never
No,
read it
wasn't
anywhere?
like, well, that's not somebody telling me. That's me reading it somewhere.
Bro, come on. Don't be pedantic like that. Somebody wrote the book that you read, and then you understand. Somebody told it to you.
I don't know. I don't know how I came to know. I think that we
Leo,
come to know a variety of terms and ideas through engagement with our cultures and our societies.
Yeah,
I don't
somebody
think
told
anything
you.
I'm saying is like outside of the norm here.
No, I mean, it's wild to me. Leo, I like you. I don't want to get angry here, but it seems like you're being a little pedantic. What I'm trying to say is, even you reading it somewhere, you just admitted that your senses are fallible, correct?
Sure.
Okay. So if your knowledge of what those words mean rely on fallibility, how can it be infallible knowledge?
Because it's not based on my experience. It's not based on my senses.
Yes, it
it's based
is.
on No, it's not. It's based on definitions.
Yeah. And how do you know those definitions?
Which definitions can be known a priori. They're given by
How?
humans, because they're given by
So
humans.
somebody told it to you, correct?
No.
No. So
Not in any
you were
strict-
born
not in
with
any
this knowledge
strict
of what a
sense.
bachelor is.
Well, no, you come to understand it, like I said, through your
fallible-
engagement with culture,
Through
and
fallible
society.
experience. You just said it's not based on your experience. So is that a contradiction in your statements there?
No,
How so? It's based on your experience, but it's not based on your experience. That seems to be a
not based on
contradiction to
yours.
me.
But we don't know what bachelors are because of something we experience about the world. We know what bachelors
Okay.
are because of the meanings of the words.
Yeah, the meaning of the word that
It's
somebody
something
made
that's
up, that
analytically
somebody
true.
gave to you. And you know that it's true.
Are you saying that because somebody coined what words mean, that means that somehow it's fallible?
Leo, know what bachelor means because somebody told it to you.
Well, I don't know what you mean by somebody told you. That's just not
You read it in a
strictly,
book.
No.
You read it in
I
a
don't know
book.
if that's how I learned what it means. I don't know how
You
I
learned it
what
somehow.
means.
A
Probably
teacher
as
taught you,
result
you
of
read
my
it in a book.
engagement with culture and society.
Right, in which somebody else had to give you this knowledge.
So
I don't
we
understand
gain
why that's
knowledge by
controversial.
interacting with the world.
Right. And the way that you gained this knowledge was through your fallible senses, correct?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay, then tell me how you know what the word bachelor means if you didn't understand it through your fallible senses.
By understanding the world around me and engaging with it, we come to know various things.
How do you understand the world around you without your senses?
How do you understand the world around you without your senses? Oh, through a variety of there's a priori inferences that we make about the world all the time.
Yeah, like the very word a priori, you don't even know what it means unless
Yes, I
somebody
do.
told you. I'm not saying you
So,
don't know what it
what
means.
does
I'm
that-
not
what does
insulting your
that matter?
intelligence. I just want you to understand. I'm not insulting your intelligence. I know you know what it
Mm-hmm.
means. But you don't. The only reason you know what it means is because somebody else taught it to you.
So
Okay, so that means that's the way you came to that knowledge is fallible.
well, I don't know that it's true because it was said to me. I know that it's true because I understand what the concepts of the terms are.
Yeah, and the reason you understand that those concepts match
Well,
those
of course, somebody
terms-
had to familiarize me with the concept for me to
Yes.
understand it, but that doesn't
Yes.
bear on the truth of the concept.
No, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Because how do you know that the concept and the word match
Because I can perform the analysis.
fallibly?
No.
No, so you have an
Deductively.
infallible way to perform the analysis?
Yeah.
And how do you do that? Okay.
Deduction.
So you use deduction, correct?
Yeah.
How do you use deduction?
By using the proper rule of inferences defined within some formal schema.
How do you physically use deduction?
By utilizing rules of inference defined within some formal schema.
With your brain, your mind.
I mean, maybe in some colloquial sense, sure.
You don't use your brain to understand logic?
I mean, maybe in some sense, sure. I don't know if that's quite how I would word it, but I mean, I can grant that.
Okay. Thank you for granting that. It was very benevolent. Um, so your brain is infallible or fallible? The process is whatever you use to understand logic. Do you understand
mind?
Logic infallibly? Yeah, the mind, whatever you want to say, because I don't necessarily know what you believe about these
The
things.
mind is fallible in what sense? In terms of its understanding of things? Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So you use something that is fallible to know something infallibly?
Mm-hmm.
How does that work?
Because we can define what rules of inference are with axioms and formal schemas.
And could your
and we can
brain or your
perform
mind
checks on them. I mean, we can do this with math too. Like, I know
Yeah.
that 2 + 2 = 4. I know that infallibly.
Okay. And the reason that you know this, right? You use your brain to understand these concepts and to come to a conclusion. You admit that your brain or your mind, whatever you want to call it, is fallible. So it could do something wrong. You could be understanding these things wrong, correct?
Yeah, but there's ways to evaluate whether you're doing that or not.
With the same thing that you just admitted was fallible, correct?
Sure.
Okay. So
It's not
this is the sticking point, and this will be my last point here because I want to give you your time. I just want to say that the reason revelatory theism is needed for infallibility is precisely for this reason. Humans are fallible. They can't do anything to escape that, and therefore their conclusions cannot be infallible unless an infallible being gives them to them infallibly. Now, you can respond to that if you want. I won't reply just because I don't want to take up more of your time to ask me questions. Unless you wanted me to reply. I just want to be fair.
I mean, how does a being give us something? How does a being like God give us knowledge?
Can I give you knowledge?
Sure.
Okay. Same way.
So God like talks to me, he writes books and then publishes those books and I can read those books.
Correct.
Yeah, what books?
The
are
Bible.
published by God.
The Bible could
was
be one
written
of
by
them.
people. The Bible was written
Yeah,
by people.
and it's understood in Christian theology that it's inspired by God to the effect that it is God's word.
Yeah, but I mean, there's no way for the Christian to show that that's in fact the case. They can say
Right.
that.
So
That's
what
fine.
I'm saying,
I don't care if people believe that, but
yeah, and this is why it's based on my argument. And if you're not going to concede that infallibilism is false, which you didn't concede that, right? Then we wouldn't be able to really move on from the argument. We did move on when you conceded it for argument's sake. And that's why this is based on my argument, right? So if infallibilism is true, it is only true via revelatory theism. That's how we know. I'm not saying it makes the Bible true, but I'm saying that's how we know there is a revelation to begin with. So we could go back, but it's going to go into the same conversation we just had. I'm willing to do that. It looks good for me. I just want to be fair to you and make sure you're asking the questions you want to ask.
I mean, my questions kind of would veer off a little bit from
Okay.
what
Yeah, whatever you want to do,
about.
man, because I took up a lot of time. So
do you think God is all powerful?
I do.
Okay. Do you think God is morally perfect?
I think that God has preferences like we do.
Mm-hmm.
So to say morally perfect, how are you asking that? What do you mean by morally perfect?
That God is perfectly opposed to evil?
Yeah, what is evil? Like, in what context are you asking me? What is the definition of evil in the context you're asking?
Evil would just be that which ought not to occur, all things considered, like say by God's lights.
So I think his preferences can change.
His preferences can change.
Yes, he does in the Bible.
So you don't think God is perfect?
No, I didn't say that.
I don't know how a perfect being changes.
A perfect being changes his preferences.
How?
He just does.
I don't even know how God has. Well, what informs God's preferences?
I don't know what informs God's preferences, but I would just
Well,
say
then
that
how do you know that God has preferences?
based on what he's said in scripture, if we're going with Christian theology.
So you just assume that scripture is some sort of revelation of what's going on in God's mind?
Well, if you're doing an internal critique here of me, then this is what I'm getting this information from. So if you want to just ask me, like, because again, that question kind of goes back to, well, how do you know the Bible is true? And we could go through that, but I think you're trying to get at something different there.
Well, I mean, I would be interested to know how people know the Bible is true, particularly when the opinions of a lot of Christians tend to be out of accord with that of the relevant subject matter experts. But
Isn't that a problem for all ideology, though?
what?
Even a true ideology? Like naturalists don't agree on everything. They have vast differences.
Sure,
Doesn't mean
but
naturalism
they
isn't
don't
true.
disagree. They don't disagree on naturalism.
Okay, and Christians agree on a lot of things.
Well,
They
not
don't-
what I'm saying is that, like, the reasons that are given for why the Bible is like the word of God and all this stuff are reasons that like most subject matter experts wouldn't agree with. Like the levels of reliability that are associated with the Bible by Christians is not unanimously agreed upon by the experts.
I think that's in every field.
I don't think so.
When we're talking about, especially when we're talking about philosophy.
Well,
Which
I'm not
theology
talking about
is a-
philosophy. I'm
well,
talking
theology
about
is a
the
form of
relevant
philosophy.
historians. Sure, but I'm not talking about theologians. I'm talking about like biblical scholars, like Old Testament scholars, New Testament scholars. When it comes to the reliability and the accuracy of the claims in the Bible, they're
Yeah, like
they're
what? Like
a lot of people
historical
will,
claims?
yeah, like a lot of people think that Jesus
Hmm.
rose from the dead because the Bible said that he did, but a lot of scholars would be like, well, no. Even scholars that believe would often say that, like, well,
No,
I mean,
any
sure,
scholar.
these people believe this, but there isn't any reason to suppose that it is true in virtue of the writings in and of themselves.
To know it or to believe it?
To know it,
Right, but you don't have to be certain to know it, right?
sure,
Okay. So why can't I know it if I could be wrong about it?
because you wouldn't know that it's true.
So now we're infallibilists again?
No, you seem to think that truth entails certainty, which it doesn't.
All right,
Truth
exactly.
and certainty
So
are not the same thing.
if I believe that Jesus rose from the dead,
Mhm.
at which level of justification do I need in order to know it?
It needs to satisfy the conditions for knowledge, which
And how would I go about doing that?
In this discussion, we've defined as justified true belief. So you've got the justified part and the belief part, perhaps. I'll grant you those, but you don't have the truth condition.
Right. And so how would I have the truth condition?
By showing that Jesus rose from the dead.
All right. So that might satisfy your justification, but I don't need to get to that level in order to satisfy the justification for me.
Well, to satisfy your level of justification, sure, but that doesn't entail truth.
Okay. So now if it doesn't entail truth, right? So I have a justified belief, again,
Mhm.
I could be wrong about the truth of it. Right?
Hmm.
Okay. Can that be considered knowledge?
No,
Why not?
because it's not true.
Okay. So then how come in every situation I give to you, you allow yourself to have knowledge even though you could be wrong about something?
Well, I mean, it depends on what you mean by could be wrong. I mean, obviously, you could be wrong about something and it'd be knowledge. Because again, truth doesn't
Right.
entail any sort of like certainty.
So under your standard, I know that Jesus rose from the dead.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I could be
Not under
wrong.
my standard, because you.
But if we're
well,
just
you haven't
fallible,
established that it's true.
right? But I have a justification for it that
Yeah.
satisfies me,
So you've got the justification and the belief part.
right? And so under
don't have the
fallibilism,
truth
I
part.
know Jesus rose from the dead because I could be wrong. I could be, but I could be wrong that this phone exists.
Well, so when you say could be wrong, what do you mean?
So like this phone in my hand, right?
Mhm.
I could have I could actually be holding up nothing and you're looking at me like, damn it, this dude's crazy. There could be something wrong with my senses for just this
Yeah,
moment.
but when you say could there, what do you mean?
It's possible.
Okay, possible in what sense?
Like there is, I guess,
Like
if you
it's
want to
logically possible?
yeah.
Okay, so sure, yeah, I can grant you that.
Okay.
It's logically possible that the sun won't rise tomorrow. I don't think that's going to stop
Right.
anybody, including you, from believing that it will.
Right. That's why fallibilism is false.
No.
Yeah, because fallibilism literally says it's possible that you could be wrong about something, but you can still call it knowledge because that's how we use the everyday language of knowledge.
Because
I know this phone
possibly
exists in
being
my
wrong
hand.
doesn't mean that it is wrong. Something can be true, but possibly wrong.
Correct.
Yeah. So if something is true and I believe it and I'm justified in believing it,
No.
there's some other
You
conditions I
wouldn't
would
know
add
it
myself,
because
but then
it's
it's
possible.
knowledge.
Well, if
But it possibly being wrong
no, this is
again
perfect
doesn't
then.
entail that it's not true.
All right, this is perfect because it goes right back to my lottery example. In the lottery example, then you would know you have the losing ticket because you could be wrong, but I mean the possibility of it is extremely.
Yeah, but you haven't established that it's true. If you've established that it's true, it's still possible that you could be wrong, but that doesn't entail that you are wrong. What do you mean, to what degree?
So have I established that it's true that I have this phone in my hand?
Yes.
To what degree?
What do you mean?
Could I be wrong?
Could you be wrong? Yeah. There's a variety of things that I could imagine are the case, but I don't have good reasons to think that they are.
What's the chance of me being wrong in the lottery example?
The chance of you being wrong about having the winning ticket?
Losing ticket.
Oh, the losing ticket?
Yeah.
So say that one more time. Just make sure I'm tracking.
Yeah. What's the chance of me being wrong in saying I know I have the losing ticket in the lottery example?
The chances of you being wrong are higher than they are lower. Or I mean lower
extremely
than they
low.
are higher. Yeah.
Or yeah,
but that doesn't entail truth.
What are the chances of me being wrong that my phone is in my hand?
Even lower.
Even lower?
Yep.
Than 99.9999999, like 1 out of 8 billion.
Being wrong.
Being wrong.
What are the chances that you're wrong?
And maybe it's lower. I don't know how we would even do the calculations to see which one is actually lower, but we could agree they're both extremely like minutely low.
If you had a lottery ticket in your hand and you held your phone in your hand and you said this is a losing ticket, and then you said this phone is not in my hand, which one of those is more probably true? I'd say that this is the losing ticket is more probably true. That phone that's in your hand, not being in your hand, when it's clearly in your hand, is more probably that. I'm not mistaken about that. We could be mistaken about that being the losing ticket.
Hold on. You said you're not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know that?
About that being your phone in your hand?
Yeah, because that seems like a universal claim.
Because it's just that I have no good reasons to suppose that you didn't just hold up your actual phone there.
But you know that your senses are fallible.
So
then that is a good reason.
In every instance, all the time, everywhere.
No, but it's a good reason to understand that you could be mistaken. There's a extremely small chance.
Could is a modal to Jesus. Could is a modal time. I got something going on here.
Could is the cat, man. I told you not to let him over there.
Could is a modal term. So I could be wrong that I'm having a debate with you right now, but what?
Right, and this is where
what reasons do I have for thinking that?
Yeah, and this is where the infallibilism
Am I justified in thinking that? Yeah. Is it true that I'm not actually having a discussion with you? Those are the important questions.
Yeah, because I understand the fallibilists. Like it took me a while to understand the point of view, but it's like, they're like, why the heck are you just say you have the phone in your hand? Like, how is that so hard? And I understand that, and that's why the colloquial use of knowledge I'm fine with. But when we're talking about epistemology, if you're saying that me holding the phone in my hand is me establishing the truth of the claim that I know I have my phone in my hand.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see how it's any different from me saying there's 8 billion tickets. I have 1 ticket and there's only 1 winner. I have established the truth that I have the losing ticket.
I don't think you've established the truth that you have the losing ticket. I think you've established it's extremely probably true that you will, not based on any sort of Bayesian calculus or anything. You've only established that it's very probably true that you have a losing ticket.
I never made it past high school.
It is true that you have a losing ticket.
I never took statistics, so I probably couldn't do the calculations, but I'm sure it's a pretty easy one to show the probability, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you could grant
and it would be very high.
Yes. So it's just as high, maybe not as high as the phone being in my hand.
Well, the phone being in your hand, I would say, is much higher.
I don't really think it's much higher than that. What's the chances of you having a hallucination in a split second? That's less than 1 out of 8 billion.
Probably, yeah.
I don't think so. But I mean, I would say it would be fair for you to grant that they're on the same plane of probability, in the same category. And if not, let's change it. Whatever number makes it the same probabilities. If it's 100 trillion people in this lottery example, does that change your opinion on this at all?
Probably not, no.
Okay, so then we can agree. And see, I mean, like, I understand it's a debate. You don't give your opponents points, but you could have just gave that to me. I mean, I had to think of this 100 trillion number. That seems a little pedantic, my friend. What I'm trying to say, though, is let's say there's 100 trillion. So now it's on the same level as the phone being in my hand. If it doesn't change anything, then both things are knowledge.
I don't think so.
Why not?
Because you haven't established truth.
Right. You keep repeating that I haven't established the truth. But when I say holding this phone in my hand establishes the truth, even though there's 1 in 100 trillion chance I could be wrong about me holding this in my hand.
It's probably less than that, though.
I'm just using random numbers, man. Doesn't matter.
No, but I don't think random numbers really like helps anything.
This is crazy to me, man.
I don't think
nothing to do with my
it's
argument about
false
this, the actual number.
False that you have the phone in your hand.
Can you give me a number then that you would be comfortable with?
I don't know. I wouldn't make the determination based on numbers.
I mean, do you have anything else you want to ask me? Because I don't know how to continue.
I mean, honestly, I was just going to ask questions about the problem of evil, but I don't know if that really interests you or not.
You do. I think we have like 12 minutes to do whatever you want, my friend.
So just to sort of lay out what the problem is in a way that I think kind of captures the intuition behind the argument from evil, because I think sometimes the technicalities go over people's heads. So I'm going to start with an analogy and then bring it over to the conception of God that Christians, at least with classical Christians, have. If you had a machine, and this is a contrived hypothetical, it's merely a hypothetical, so just bear that in mind, folks. Suppose you had a machine that was designed to destroy chairs. What it did is it destroyed chairs. Doesn't matter what a chair is, whatever you think a chair is, that's what it destroys. And it was perfectly efficacious at destroying chairs, which is to say that it never fails. Anywhere there is a chair, this machine instantaneously destroys the chair. If such a machine existed, it would just follow that there are no chairs in the world where this machine exists. That would just follow logically from the existence of the machine. Granted, the things that we've predicated about the machine, that it destroys chairs and it's perfectly efficacious at doing this. So even one instance of there being a chair, one instance of a chair in this world would just entail that no such machine exists. So suppose that the chair is evil and the machine is God.
Hold on, before we get there, let me understand the hypothetical more, because I have heard this before, but I don't truly understand all the working parts of it. So this chair, in the sense that it's perfect, means like it's not like if I input a chair, it's perfectly destroyed.
The chair isn't perfect. The machine is perfectly efficacious at destroying chairs.
But if I input, so I understand that if I input a chair, out comes a perfectly destroyed chair, right? But are you saying that the machine must destroy all chairs?
That is
that's
correct.
Different. So it's not just
that's
not
by
about
being
its
perfectly efficacious at destroying chairs. That's just to say any chair that exists, this machine destroys it. So if there is a chair, then yes,
but not
this
really.
machine must destroy it. Yeah.
No, because if I have
then it's not perfectly efficacious at destroying chairs. There could be chairs that exist that it hasn't destroyed. Then it's not perfectly efficacious at destroying chairs.
Here, this is where I won't be pedantic, and I'll try to give you a good thing we can move forward with. I would say it's perfectly efficacious at eliminating all chairs on planet Earth, or eliminating all chairs in the universe.
No, it eliminates all chairs in whatever world this machine exists in. It doesn't matter.
Right.
You want to say the actual world, however you want to define it. Within that world, there would be no chairs if such a machine
Right.
exists.
So that's why you couldn't say it's a perfectly efficacious chair destroyer.
But I'm stipulating that it is a perfectly efficacious chair destroying machine.
I know, but that title doesn't fit what it does, because it doesn't just destroy chairs. It actively seeks out and destroys chairs. It actively seeks out and destroys.
It instantaneously destroys chairs where there are chairs. And so what this would entail is that there just are no chairs in the world that this machine exists in.
Okay. And then from there, this chair destroying machine, does it have agency?
Doesn't matter.
Yes, it does. I'm asking a
The
clarifying
machine
question.
is perfectly efficacious at destroying chairs.
Right. So
Anywhere
does somebody
there are
feed
chairs
it
that
machine
instantaneously
chairs,
destroy-
or
doesn't
does it
matter.
yes
It doesn't matter.
So I don't have the
none of
proper
that matters
context
for
to answer the hypothetical.
I could grant all that for the hypothetical, and it doesn't matter.
Okay.
The machine
All right.
is
So
perfectly
grant then
efficacious
if
at
you can
destroying
grant
chairs.
it, then grant to me that it doesn't have agency.
It doesn't need agency. Sure, it doesn't have
Okay.
agency. It doesn't need
All right.
it.
All right. Thank you for granting me that. Now we can move on. What's the question then?
What do you mean? What's the question? Why? Yeah.
Well,
so
that's
why
the
does evil
hypothetical.
exist?
What's
Yeah.
what's
The question is
question?
why does if God exists, why does evil exist?
Well, he's not an agentless, perfectly efficacious evil destroyer.
So God is not perfectly opposed to evil.
He could be, and still have agency and not match your analogy.
Well, if he's perfectly opposed to evil, I just take that to say that he doesn't want evil things to happen.
Yes, but can you do something perfectly in an imperfect manner?
Not if you're perfect. No.
Okay, so let's say I'm a perfect chess player, and I'm playing a chess game against my son, but I don't want to just completely destroy my son. So instead of
you
playing the
intentionally
perfect
make
move,
mistakes.
correct, in order for
But those are
a different
intentional.
goal.
You're intending.
Correct.
Your desire is to make mistakes.
Yes. And
Okay.
God's desire in this situation is intending the world we have for a certain
So
goal.
he intends for evil things to exist.
Correct.
So in what sense are they evil?
Well, if somebody with their free will, again, you'd have to grant free will in this situation.
Sure.
If you want to talk about free will, we can do that's a different argument. In this situation, God creating human beings and giving them free will, if he intends to give beings free will, he can intend for them to do evil things in order to understand or know about their free will.
No, but it's possible for God to create a world with rational moral agents like ourselves that possess free will. I can even grant in the libertarian sense of free will. And all of those agents freely choose to never do evil.
A good thing you can use to back this up, if you use this in debate, is the angels, right? The angels never sinned, yet they have free will.
Mhm.
Well, most of the angels. Now, here's the thing. That could,
Well, let me
he
just
could
ask
do
the
that.
question that comes,
If you want, I
that
could
comes
answer
with
it.
that.
Okay.
Because that just leads to a broader question pointing that fact out. Would such a world be better than the world that we have?
It depends how you would define better.
Less evil.
Well, I don't know that a world that is less evil is ultimately better.
So God doesn't want a world with less evil in it?
Well, he does. What we know is he does want a world in which he judges evil. So a world with no evil.
Why would he create a world in which there are things that he has to judge? Why would he do that?
I don't know why, but I don't think that it's an argument against his existence that he did.
Well, why not heaven now?
Yeah, I mean, why not make us all God?
Well, this doesn't need to make us God, but it seems that in Christian theology, God desires for a personal relationship with everybody. He desires for everybody to come to him, to know him, and to be with him in heaven for all eternity, living in peace and harmony. So why didn't he just create the world that way? Why did he create the universe and create all these natural disasters and create us with limited physical bodies, and that we do all this evil, and we rape and we pillage and we steal and we plunder and we kill and we do all of these things? Why not heaven now?
Yeah,
why go through all this rigmarole?
Yeah, and I think that maybe I don't have a direct answer for it, but I would just say, if God can desire an outcome, can he also desire a path? And what about this path?
What I would say is that whatever that path is, given that it's what God desires, in virtue of that, it wouldn't be evil. And so, and it just seems that it follows that if God is morally perfect, then no world that he creates contains evils.
No, that's not true. The path itself and the outcome could not be evil while there are individual agents doing evil things in the path.
But God wants them to do those things, right? They're part of the plan, so to speak.
God wants them. God would desire this path, and he would
That
desire.
includes the evils.
Sure,
So he wants the evils.
sure, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, then in what sense are they
desire.
evil? He wants them to happen. He intends for them to happen. I just take that to be that God thinks they ought to occur, all things considered. That's why he permits them to happen. And in what sense are they evil?
He intends for free beings, and out of this intention comes evil. So if you want to say that he intends evil in that way, sure, I can grant
so
that.
You're saying that evil isn't something that God directly intends, but is a result of his creating free beings that do choose to do evil.
Yeah, I could say that, but it's not like you
but
said.
Why not create a world with free beings and they just choose
Right.
not to do evil of their own accord?
Exactly. I would say I don't know, but that doesn't make this world an argument against the existence of God.
I think it does. I mean,
how? What's the connection?
Because
where's the contradiction?
I think that if God is morally perfect, then this just means that he's perfectly opposed to evil. And anything that God thinks ought not occur, all things considered, just wouldn't, because he doesn't want it to occur and he has the power to ensure that it doesn't. So then it would just entail that it doesn't. Much the same way that if there were a machine that were perfectly efficacious at destroying chairs, then any world where such a machine existed, there would exist no chairs. Any world where God exists, as defined by classical Christian theism, there is no evil. We might think it's evil, but it's not evil, all things considered.
How would we know the answer to this question? And I'm not going to drag it back into tinfoil, don't worry. How would we know if a morally perfect being would create agents with free will or not?
How would we know that a morally perfect agent would do that? I don't think we would. I don't know how we would know that a morally perfect agent would do anything. I don't know how we would know that any sort of agent, morally perfect or not, like God, would do anything. I don't know how we would know what its preferences and its desires and its intentions were, which is why I don't get where Christians can make all the claims that they do about that same
based on revelation. But if revelation is true,
that's actually what God wants and not what
but if revelation is true,
wrote down,
they would be justified, right? If the revelation is true.
Yes. Okay.
Now, the only thing I would say is that's exactly why your argument doesn't work. Because you wouldn't know what a morally perfect agent would do.
Well, I do, in the sense that I know that a morally perfect agent would be perfectly opposed to evils, but it's not just that it's a morally perfect agent. It's that it's a morally perfect agent and it's an all-powerful agent, which entails that, number one, it's perfectly opposed to evils and that its will is perfectly efficacious. So if it's perfectly opposed to evils, then it just wills for there to be no evils. And if its will is perfectly efficacious, then whenever it wills just is. Then it just follows that there is no evil in any world where such a being obtains. Much like how if you had a machine that was perfectly efficacious at destroying chairs, at any world where such a machine existed, there would exist no chairs.
Right. But how would you know that this being, given those characteristics that you gave it,
it follows logically.
No, how would you know that this being would not do what he has done, what I'm saying he has done?
Well, if he has done it, then it just follows that there is no evil in the world, which I think is a very, very large bullet for a Christian to bite.
No, that doesn't mean that there's no evil in the world. Yeah,
it does, because it means God intends for everything to happen.
Okay,
which means God wills for everything to happen, which means it's just what God thinks ought to occur.
If evil is going against God's law for humanity, say the Mosaic law, and yet he intends for people to break the Mosaic law, how is that action not evil?
Because God intended for them to do it.
So the definition of evil here is breaking the law. The law was broken. How is it not evil?
Well, I don't think that's what evil is. I think evil is that which ought not occur, all things considered.
Okay, well, in this situation, divine command theory, evil is going against God's commands.
Sure. I think God would be perfectly opposed to that if he's morally perfect.
Okay, but he's not breaking the law.
Sure, doesn't matter. He doesn't want anyone breaking the law. It's his law. He doesn't want anyone breaking it. That's why he made it laws.
Yes, but he intends for the situation to arise where one could make the free choice.
So he made
to break
laws
his
and
law.
Intended for people to break them?
He intended for the free agents to be able to break them, knowing they would, yes.
To be able to break them or to break
them?
Right,
like not deterministically.
Sure, but to be able to break them or to break them?
Well, yeah, if what you're saying is because he could have made the world in which they had free will but did not break them, then yes, he would intend for them to break them.
Okay. So
in
then why
order
would it be
for a
wrong?
bigger goal.
Yeah. So
Because
God
it's
has
still the
some
action of
greater
breaking the law.
desire. God has some greater desire, that which is the reason for why he allows these evils to occur.
Right.
Yeah, I just don't know in what sense they're evil. They ought to occur because they furnish some desire God has.
You're
they,
using
they
a
conduce God's
definition
will.
that's outside of my worldview. So now it's no longer an internal critique.
Well, I'm just taking this to be that God is a rational agent,
Yeah, but what you
and that
believe.
morality is defined by God in His nature.
Well, I'm saying morality is defined by God's commands.
So you would be a divine commander?
In a sense, for this, yes.
Oh, sure. God wills somebody to break His law. Isn't that not effectively commanding them to do so?
No.
And if not, why would God command somebody to not do something to then intend to do them as an all-powerful agent, which just entails that they're going
Again,
to
not deterministically, but He would intend in a
well,
world.
sure, but it
where
doesn't
these
need to be
people-
any sort of. It can be non-deterministic, but it's still entailed.
And I don't see the problem.
So God entails.
You're just
for people
asking
to do
why He
things-
would do it, and I'm saying
God
I don't know,
entails
but I
for
don't see the
people to do
problem.
things He doesn't want them to do. He wants people to do things He doesn't want them to do. I don't see how that makes any sense.
Okay.
Do you
So
think
does
people?
this
do you
makes
think
God
agents,
evil? This makes God
You-
evil?
No,
or this
I'm
makes-
not arguing that it makes God evil. I'm arguing that it makes it such that there's no evil in the world at all. The argument
No,
from
that's
evil
not
isn't
true.
an argument that God is evil. It's an argument that God's existence and the existence of evil are
How-
logically incompatible.
If the definition of evil is is breaking God's commands, and someone breaks God's commands, how is there no evil?
You can define evil however you want. God is perfectly
Okay.
opposed to that. Whatever
Okay.
whatever evil is, God is perfectly opposed to that.
Yeah, and does being perfectly opposed to that meaning He would never intend for it to happen?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
How?
because he's perfectly opposed to it. I don't know how you
Right.
intend for something that you don't intend to happen. I don't understand
No, so
what that would mean.
when you say they're perfectly opposed to these things happening, and then He intends for a world in which these things are happening to meet a certain bigger goal, how is that a contradiction?
Well, then he wouldn't be opposed to them, and in that instance, they just wouldn't be evil.
No, he's opposed to people breaking His law, but He intends for them to do it so that they may learn something in the end.
Sure, but then it's not evil that they're doing so.
Yes, it is. The
No, it's not.
definition of evil is met.
No, it's not.
In my worldview, it is.
I don't think so.
Okay, we disagree.
I mean, I don't know how you intend for somebody to do something you don't want them to do.
Yeah, you can have a stance in which you don't want people to break your commands, and yet create a world in which these people break these commands. You intended to create this world knowing the outcome. So if you want to connect that all the way and make it all intention, that's fine. But when you have this, I don't see how the big goal at the end contradicts the opposition.
I just think that what we're saying is God is irrational. He's commanding people to do things He doesn't want them to do.
No,
Why would
He's
you
not commanding
command-
them. What is a command?
You just said that God is commanding them to do things He doesn't want them
No,
to
He's
do.
not. He's commanding them by saying, don't do these things. That's a command.
Mm-hmm.
And then He creates a world in which they do these things. He's not commanding them to do those
But
things.
He's intending for them to do them, right?
Right? So He's intending for people to break His commands. How
No,
is that
sorry,
Him?
I misspoke. I flipped. I got it flipped. God doesn't want them doing things that He commands them not to do. He wants them doing things He commands them not to do.
But
It seems that a command is going to
could
be
put
given
it-
in virtue of God's desire. So God is going
You
to what God
Yeah.
commands is in line with God's desire. So if God desired for somebody to do something, then why would He command them not to do the thing He wants them to do? That just seems like an irrational behavior. I
Well,
don't
no,
take a
'cause-
perfect being to be irrational.
because God's desire for something doesn't have to be like God could say, I don't want anybody breaking my commands, and yet create a world in which free agents break His commands.
Why
That's
would He
not a
do that?
contradiction.
Why
Again,
would
you
He do
keep
that?
asking why, and I understand many people have these questions, but what I'm saying is the argument doesn't work. It's not a contradiction.
Well, I think it is
Can
in
you
some sense.
lay out the contradiction for me?
Yeah, I don't know why a God would command people not to do something that He wants them to do. If He desires for them to do it, why would you command them not to? It seems that He's
Right.
working against His own intentions. And then I take that to be a move of irrationality, and then at that point, God is not a perfect being.
Because
so perfect
it's a
being
secondary
theism,
desire.
and thus classical Christian theism would be false.
It's not the intention for like the intent. The first order intention is not for them to break his commands. The first order intention is the goal at the end, right? Whatever this goal is at the end is the first order intention. In order to reach that goal, God lays out a plan. This is the plan.
Mhm.
In that plan, yes, he intends for the plan to happen. I understand and I agree with what you're doing with intention. Intention goes all the way down. He intends for these people to break his commands in order to end up at this later goal. All right?
Mhm.
Okay, where's the contradiction?
Well, if he's intending for it to happen, I don't know why he wouldn't want his own intentions to happen.
And that's exactly what we see right now. He's intended this world to happen, and this world has happened. Where's the contradiction?
Well, no, I'm saying because it seems that what you're saying is that there are things happening in the world that he doesn't want to happen. So he's intending for things to happen that he doesn't intend to happen.
No, him not wanting or not him wanting people to follow his commands, and yet in intending that they break his commands in order to reach a goal is not a contradiction.
So he wants people to follow his commands, and he wants people to not follow his commands at the same time.
Well, he has commanded certain things, and then he has intended
And he wants
a world,
people to not follow them.
In order to end up in a bigger goal. Yes.
Yeah, but a command is an expression of something that you desire in some sense. You're desiring for somebody
No.
to do something. So then what do you think a command is?
A command is a command or a law would be something that you
think
ought to do.
commands and laws are the same thing?
Yes.
Well, I take a command to be some sort of like linguistic activity. I don't know if a law, I mean, obviously a law is in some sense linguistic, but laws are going to be some sort of like, oh geez, it would like some sort of maybe deontic feature. I don't think a command necessarily has that. A command is like semantic. A command is like an order or something of some sort. It's expressing some sort of desire for somebody to do something at the behest of somebody else, which just seems to express some sort of intent. So if God is commanding people to not do something, he intends for them to not do it. To then turn around and say that he does intend for them to do it, I think is an explicit contradiction, entailing God's irrationality, which entails the falsity of classical Christian theism.
Yeah, maybe then a command is the wrong word to use, and I should just use law. Divine law theory.
But laws, do you think laws maybe in some sense express commands?
Express? What do you mean by express?
That what is wrapped up in the notion of a law is a command to do something by some sort of like governing agent, whatever it may be. That the law is given in virtue of here's a command, and we're taking this command and expressing it in terms of a law that's overarching over a society. You know, there's a lot of ways that we could classify.
I think you can make commands based on law, but laws themselves are not commands.
But so you don't think God's laws are in virtue of his commands? You think it's the other way around?
I think that God has laid out a set of rules that we ought to follow. But he can still intend a world in which we don't follow them, and that's not a contradiction.
Yeah, but if he lays out laws, he's laying them out in virtue of him intending for people to follow the laws, right?
He could.
Behind him laying out the laws is an intent for people to follow them.
He's saying these are my laws.
Mm-hmm.
He's telling them to follow them,
mm-hmm.
but he's intending a world in which
that to happen.
No, he's intending that they don't.
So then why is he laying out the laws?
Why not?
Well, because he doesn't want people to follow them. That's why not.
Well, is it a contradiction?
Yeah, he's intending for people to do things he doesn't intend for them to do.
No, his intention is for them to break the law.
So then why lay out the law? It seems that
why not?
Up in the notion of a law is an intention for.
Is it a contradiction?
Yeah.
Okay, lay out the contradiction.
Wrapped up in the notion of a law is an intention to not do something. But he's intending for them to do the thing he's intending for them to not do. That seems like an explicit contradiction.
Leo Filius, I don't want you to own a cat.
You don't want me to own a cat?
Mm-hmm.
Sure, not all powerful. So I don't care. It doesn't matter what you want to do.
No, exactly. So if I don't want you to own a cat, do you know my intention?
Yeah, but you're not all powerful.
Do you know my intention?
Sure, but you're not all powerful.
You don't know my intention. Why did I tell you not to own a cat?
Because it's your intention. Unless you're lying.
What was my intention behind it?
Me not owning a cat. You intend for me not to
No.
own a cat. That's why you're
I-
issuing the command.
I
Hey,
told-
don't own a cat.
No, I told you I didn't want you to own a cat,
Mhm.
just in order to piss you off. My intention was just to piss you off.
Okay.
You see how my intention can be different than my law? Or
Yeah,
my
but you're
command?
not an all-powerful being. You're not perfectly
So?
rational. So yeah, you can behave irrationally. God cannot.
No, that's not an irrational behavior. What was
I think
my
it is.
goal? What was my goal? To piss you off.
Huh?
So my
Okay.
goal was to piss you off. So I said something to
Well, I mean,
reach
it
my goal.
didn't.
How is that? I know. It's a joke. I didn't want to really piss you off, dude.
Yeah, but you're not issuing a law or anything like that. So I'm
I
failing.
am. It's my law
No,
to
you're
Leo
not.
Phileas.
No, but that's not a law. It's not a
Says
law in
who?
any strict
Do
sense.
you have to follow
Says
God's
me.
law?
No, absolutely. I don't have to follow any laws.
Okay. So then
Mhm.
it's not a law?
No, I don't
Because
think
you
so.
don't
I
have
think
to
it's just
follow
you
it?
expressing. I think it's just you.
Do you have
expressing
to
some sort
follow
of
the
desire.
US laws?
Do I have to? No.
Okay. So then it's not a law according to you.
No. It's there are laws. They're codified.
Okay. So God codified his laws in the Mosaic law.
And I think that in codifying laws, which are expressing our intentions.
How so? I just
They're-
codified a
because
law.
I take that to be what laws are. Like when we say "do not murder," we are
Okay.
intending for
All
people
right.
to
Even
not
if I
murder.
grant it to you that there's an intention behind codifying the law, how do you know what the intention is?
In the law that's codified.
How?
Unless you're lying, unless you want to say that you're lying about what your intention is, like you're codifying a
No.
law, but the intent is not to have people follow the law. It's for some other reason, then that's just lying. But
No.
I don't
How is that
think you
lying?
want to say that God. I don't think you want to say that because it's not being honest about what your intentions are.
So if God tells you to do something and doesn't tell you his intention behind you doing it, he's lying?
No.
Okay, exactly. So God is telling you to do something
But
without
if he tells
revealing
you
his
that he
intention.
doesn't want you to do something and he really does, then I mean, I think that's kind of lying.
I mean, I don't see how it gets there.
Because he's saying, I intend for you not to do something that I intend for you to
No,
do.
he's just laying out a law.
Yeah.
You don't
In
know
which
the
he-
intention.
that he intends. Does he intend for people to follow his laws?
We just established he intended for a world to exist in which free agents would break his law.
Yeah, and he established laws, right?
Yeah.
Does he intend for
And
people to
you
follow
don't
those
know
laws?
the intention behind it.
Does he intend for people to follow those laws?
I can actually, at this point, just say, no, we don't know the intention.
So then why did he lay out the laws if he didn't intend
Again,
for people to follow
we
them?
don't need to know in order to show.
So then
you-
what? In
There's
what
no
sense are they laws?
contradiction.
Sure, but in what sense are they laws?
In the same way that Australia has laws that we don't have to follow.
Yeah, but wrapped up in the laws that Australia has, they're intending for people to follow them
How do you know?
because they're laws.
Because they told you the intention?
It's because they're laws.
Is the intention within the law itself?
Yeah, I think so.
Where?
In the law, in the expression of hey, do not do this. In the
How
expression of
so?
a command that is associated with the law.
So
Laws
it's
issue commands
impossible.
about behavior with the
It's-
intent to stop, to either oh Jesus fucking Christ, forbid or permit
So
certain actions or behaviors.
So is it logically possible for a state to enact a law in which
There's a word
their
that I'm
intention
looking for.
does not align with the law?
Okay,
Is
yeah. I think the word I'm looking for is illocutionary. I had to look it up. Which commands are considered illocutionary actions, which where illocutionary refers to like what it is something is doing by what they're saying. So when we issue laws, they're sort of illocutionary in the sense that we're issuing a command in the law. We're issuing an intent for the law to be followed. I seriously don't think that you would sit here and say that countries pass laws and they absolutely do not intend for them to be followed. Then why would they issue the law?
It
That
doesn't
just
have
seems
to be
an
absolute.
irrational muse.
No, you're
I'm
using
not
a
saying it has
term
to be
now.
absolute or anything
Okay.
like that.
If
But
it's
I
not
think laws
absolute,
are issued with the intent for them to be followed.
are contradictions absolute?
What do you mean by absolute here?
In the same way that you were using it earlier.
I mean, I think that contradictions in some formal schema always evaluate as necessarily false.
Okay.
That they're necessarily false. They're
So is
opposite tautologies.
So if it's not absolute, if it's not necessary that the intention
Do you just mean
match.
necessary by absolute?
Sure.
That it's necessarily false? Yeah. Contradictions are necessarily false.
Okay, so then where's the contradiction in God
In
laying
God
out a law?
intending for something, or God not intending for something that he intends.
No, but he doesn't intend it. That's the point.
Then I
You
don't know
don't-
what
you
in what
don't
sense
know
you're
the
talking
intention.
about laws here. Then I don't know what sense
Okay.
you're talking about laws here. If laws aren't some sort of aren't issuing some sort of command with some intent for the law to be
There's
followed,
actually
then I don't know
specific.
what you mean by
There's
law.
actually specific examples of like Jesus commanding people to be perfect, knowing and intending that they aren't.
Sure.
So what's his intention behind
I
that
just think that's
command?
problematic with your worldview.
No, what's the
Not for
intention
mine.
behind that command? Is the
I have no idea.
intention
That's
behind
something
that
for you to
command for that
answer.
person to actually be perfect?
I have
Thank
no
you for
idea.
telling me you don't know. That's the entire.
Yeah.
If we can't know the
I
intention
still think it's
behind the
problematic for
command,
your
there's no
worldview
contradiction.
that God issues a variety of commands and he doesn't intend for people to follow them. And then I don't know what sense it is that God is, they are commands
Yeah.
that
Well,
God is issuing, because I take a command to be something that is done with some intent for the command to be followed. I'm telling you to do a thing or to not do a thing, and I'm intending for you to either do it or not do it, to then turn around for you to either not intend to do it or intend to do it. I just think that that's explicit contradiction.
Well, since you already told me that you can't know the intention or you don't know the intention with a certain command,
Yeah, but at the end of the
I would
the
say
thing is,
that
I
you
don't think you're
can't
understanding
say it's
that's
a
problematic for your
it's a
worldview, not my
logical
critique.
contradiction. You can say it seems inconsistent, but that's
Well,
all you
as
can
I
say.
understand these terms, there is a contradiction entailed. And I understand you might not understand the terms the same way. That's okay, but I'm not using the terms in any sort of idiosyncratic manner whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how you've established that there is a logical contradiction.
Given the meanings of terms like command and law and stuff like that, and how there is this notion of intent built into it, to issue some law or command is to intend for it to be followed. But if you
That's not
didn't want
necessarily
people
true.
following it, oh, I think it is. I think that's
How?
sort of
Can
what
you
the notion
establish
of the
that?
command is. Well, again, going back to the term I used, illocutionary, that's built into
Yeah.
the notion of what a
So you
command
can
is.
say that laws are generally illocutionary, but what you can't say is that laws necessarily line up, that you can necessarily know the intention and line up the intention with what the law says.
Well, the me not knowing what the intention behind the law is doesn't remove the
Mhm.
fact that the law still is based on some sort of intention.
Right.
Even if I
so-
don't know what the intention is, the
Right.
law is given in terms of an intention for somebody to do something for some or something like that, which is all
Yeah,
I'm saying. I'm not
but-
saying that I need to know what the intention is, just
It
that there
seemed
is
like you
intention
were.
behind it.
It seemed like you were saying that the intention behind it is that they follow the law.
Well, generally, yes, laws are issued with the
Okay,
intent
generally.
for them to be followed. Now, if you want to say God
Generally.
acts irrationally and issues laws he doesn't intend for people to follow, then
I'm
that's
not even
fine. Then I
saying
just think
that.
God is irrational.
This is probably a good time to jump into the Q&A. We've actually gone a little bit over relative to what we usually do. We're going to jump right into this. Folks, thank you very much for your questions. I'm going to try to move fast as we got a number of them here. Want to remind you, both of our guests are linked in the description box. If at any time you're kind of curious, like, okay, what do they have over there? Check out Leophilius and check out our good friend, Wi-Fi Gospel. Both of them good friends and longtime friends of the channel. Leo has been with us for, I mean, this is the first time I've
2020.
gotten to host you for a while, but the first one was 2020, really?
Yep.
That
Mhm.
sounds
It was
about
with
right.
Otangelo. Yep, I remember that.
That's crazy. Wow.
Really, really quickly, I'm going to go grab some water. I still have headphones in, so I'm still listening. I'll hear everything. I'll be right back.
You got it. I'm going to do a couple other quick housekeeping things. Folks, if you did not know, DebateCon 7, Houston, Texas, 2 weeks from now. Just 2 weeks. That's 14 days. That's only 9,276 hours. It's coming so fast. Let me check how many hours it really is. 14 times 24. That can't be right. It's 14. It's 336 hours, not 9,000, which is just how urgent this is. It's even more urgent than I said. So grab your tickets. They're linked at the top of the description box and pinned at the top of the comments. Thanks for your super chat that just came in. By the way, I wanted to be absolutely sure too, is that thank you, Left-Handed Assassin. If you meant to attach a question to your super chat, I didn't get it, but maybe you're just doing it for the pleasure of it, which either case, we appreciate it. But if you did have a question you wanted to attach to it, let me know. And we'll read all three of them. But yes, this one is coming fast. David Wood squares off with Jake Muslim metaphysician. It is going to be heated. Also, apostate prophet versus Muslim metaphysician. It also is going to be heated. I'm expecting, like, we always hire security, and we always prefer to have more security than we need rather than not enough. And that is something we will continue to do at this conference. We will ensure that everybody is safe. And they're also going to be there, not just for the safety of this, like our guests, of course, but also just in case things get really crazy during the debate, as we are expecting things may get wild. So grab those tickets. I will link that at the top of the comments right now. I'm going to put that in. And then we're going to jump into these questions once Leo returns. If you haven't yet, hit that like button.
I was just gonna say, if security is ever a concern, I was at the prior debate con. Security was great. I was even packing myself, and I showed up, and I was like, "Oh, I guess I can't do that here." But at least there was security there for me, so I didn't have to do that. Security was great at the last debate con.
I know exactly what you mean, and that's something that, yes, I usually am very much about people being able to carry wherever they want. And we do worry for like liability purposes.
Right.
So we do, though, we get armed security. So it's not like we're asking everybody to like disarm themselves and then be vulnerable. Like, we've got people that are carrying and that will take action if it's needed. But yeah, last time we had so much security that it was like it was great. We always get, like I said, plenty, but last time I think we had like additional security, as the hotel also got security. But
yeah,
this question coming in from Leo, you ready for this? I'm surprised. Basil, your friend Basil Wi-Fi is here tonight. But good news, he didn't actually. There's nothing. I don't think I saw one that he directed toward you. His infantile.
He found a new target.
Yes, but truth will out. Thank you for your super chat. Marilyn says you're both idol worshippers. Wow. Don't worry. She's here all the time. She's always like that.
I thought she was coming to DebateCon. I didn't see her.
Wait, she wasn't at DebateCon, but she's always here in the live chat. And
she said she was coming.
Don't take it personally, you idol worshippers. AI generated says, who would win in a fight, Anton Lavey versus Billy Graham?
Probably
I know
Anton.
who Billy Graham is, but I'm embarrassed to say I don't know who Anton Lavey is. Do you guys know?
Do you know Leo? Is? I know who he is. Really? He is like the founder of modern Satanism. So I don't know if he's like the founder of Satanism, but like
that guy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Anton would, but I only know Billy Graham as a feeble old man. So that's my idea of him. I don't know what he was like when he was younger. Anton died young, so all of the pictures of him, like fairly, I think like 50s or 60s, but all the pictures of him are still like, you know, he's not an old 80-year-old feeble man, you know?
You're right. He did. But this one from, do appreciate it. If you know who that was an impersonation of, let me know in chat. Truth will out. Thanks for your super chat. Bubblegum Gun says, is Jim Bob scared to debate me on Modern Day Debate? Ooh, juicy. And Marilyn says, you're both God. Wake up. Y'all idolize words. So stick that in your pipe and smoke it, Leo. This one from Basil Problem says, Modern Day Debate, I think your ghost channel is more interesting than Modern Day Debate. You know what? That's impossible, because nothing's more interesting than Modern Day Debate. And I can tell you, Leo, the inside joke about this is last night I confessed to everyone in live chat, and Wi-Fi was here, that I, a year ago, tried to start a ghost channel, like just ghost videos, and it was terrible. It was so hard, Leo, because Leo, you've got over 1,000 subs, right?
I do, yes.
We were talking about how hard it is. If you get through that first 1,000, it's much easier to get your second or third 1,000, etc. Because when I started this ghost channel from scratch, and I didn't promote it on Modern Day Debate or anything, and it was just so hard. It was like 3 views a video. It was just in their shoes. Apologetics says Leo stood his ground longer than Muhammad and the Al-Zut. Don't ask about that one.
Somebody's excited for DebateCon 7.
This one from Bubblegum Gun says, God has subjective morals, unquote. And they say this is according to Christian Cassio. I don't know who Christian Cassio is either. What is with?
I don't know. Bubblegum Butt's kind of a character. He just says things sometimes, and
well,
they're just words.
There is a few people who hold moral anti-realism as Christians. And like I had a debate with Danny on Monday Debate when he was a Christian. He said he was a moral anti-realist. There's also David Paulman, who's debating soon on Modern Day Debate. That should be an interesting debate. I think he's debating Danny, who I just mentioned, as a 2v2. He is currently a Christian and a moral anti-realist. I'm sure that will come up in the debate, or maybe not, depending on the problem. But yeah, there are a lot of people some people who are moral anti-realists. I'm not, but I think it helps understanding that position when people try to make try to put you into a contradiction morally.
Just to clarify, David Paulman, I think, is more of a moral skeptic, where he's not sure about anti-realism or realism, but I think he leans more toward anti-realism than he does realism.
And I was just going off of Facebook posts, which he may treat as a way to rage bait a little bit, get some engagement. We all do that.
This one from, do appreciate it. In Their Shoes Apologetics says, John Lennox said miracles are not a violation of science. The lawgiver can tweak his laws anytime he likes, just as Google can do the same. Leo,
well, I think laws of nature are some sort of violation or something that falls out of accord with the gnomic structure of physical reality. But setting that aside, if God can sort of tweak the laws of nature in a way that we wouldn't recognize that the laws of nature are being changed, then I don't know in what sense it would fall out of accord with the laws of nature. How do I know that this isn't happening all the time, everywhere, all at once? Like, there's just no way to distinguish between an event that would be miraculous and an event that would not be miraculous on such a view, then, it seems. How do you determine that something is a tweak in the laws of nature rather than not?
How do you hold that the laws of nature are universal and non-changing?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I would say that laws of nature are like things out in the world so much as features of our descriptive theories about the world.
Okay, because I would just say that, like, based on John Lennox, I don't know if I fully understand what he just said there, but it seems like he's saying the laws of nature are not non-changing, right? That's what he said. So I would assume if that's the case, your rebuttal of that would be the same for anybody who holds that the laws of nature are non-changing.
This one from
if you
Truth
want,
Will Out, thanks for your question. Kevin Blackwell says, for Leo, is it possible for a government to intend people to violate a law so it can collect revenue through fines?
Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible.
I think you would say then that would make them liars. And that's the charge you would charge with God.
I think there's
when
some
we were
sense
talking.
in which they're lying there, yeah.
Yeah. I think you could be
some
lying.
Level of dishonesty.
But at the same time, actually, you don't believe that lying is always evil, right?
Not always, no.
Right, because, if we had certain people in our basement and we were hiding them from certain people with certain facial hair, we would both hopefully say, no, we don't have anybody in our basement.
Well, I certainly would.
Yeah.
I wouldn't tell ICE that I had illegals in my basement.
Uh-oh. This just changed.
This one coming from Kevin Black. We got that one. Even Lord says, for Leo, how can he make a truth claim when he is on record for saying truth doesn't exist?
Because I understand the notion of nominalism. And I know what nominalism is. I know what conceptualism is, and I'm nominalist and probably some sort of conceptualist about things like truth. So, okay, truth isn't a thing out in the world. Okay, great. That doesn't mean I can't talk about it. Santa Claus isn't a thing out in the world. We still talk about Santa Claus. So, what?
But the concept of Santa Claus exists.
Yeah, with the concept of truth, I could say exists too. Like, the truth isn't a thing out in the world. I don't
Yeah,
know if I would say
I would
concepts
just-
like exist as things in the world, but that doesn't make it such that we can't talk about them and we don't use them. That's
And
just that's not what
that's where the
nominalism
rub
claims.
is with naturalism, which is I was gonna take it to concepts. I don't know why. I
Well,
didn't.
nominalism doesn't entail naturalism. I'm speaking from a nominalist perspective.
Right, and I'm
And
just
there are
like, that's the
Christians that
rub
are
with
nominalists.
naturalism.
Read William Lane Craig.
Right. Yeah, a lot of like Protestantism was built on a lot of nominalism. But I understand like when especially even if you could argue your way out of it, optically it doesn't look good, right?
I don't care about optics. I care about
Well,
what's
you
true
should in the
and
debate
what's
world.
considered. Well, honestly, not really.
Then you
Sure,
just don't
maybe
care
when
about
I'm
the
debating a
audience.
subject. Well, no, I care more about like defending my positions. The audience can take from what I say what they will, and they're going to, regardless of what I say, they will take from it what they will. I care more about consistency and truth. If something seems optically, but it's like, okay, that doesn't make it not true. That doesn't make it not consistent. You should judge things
No,
on
but
their truth and or their consistency rather than how they sound in a debate.
But it does mean if you care about the impact you have on the audience, you should find a way to word it in a more palpable way to the audience, right?
Well, I think that I can, and that I do.
Right. I'm just saying that one is definitely bad optically, and even if it's you
What,
can argue out of it.
nominalism?
No, saying that truth doesn't exist.
I don't think that's bad optically. I think
Everybody
most
in chat
philosophers would be
disagrees
like,
with you.
yeah, well, I don't care what chat says.
Again, so
I care
then
what
you
like
just don't
the
care about
people
the impact you
studying.
have on other people who watch your debates.
Well, but the impact I have on other people depends on those other people. If I said truth doesn't exist in a room full of professional philosophers, most of them wouldn't care. The fact that the chat on a channel on YouTube is like, oh, well, how could you say such a thing? Okay, cool. You think that?
Yeah, I'm just
Okay,
saying,
like it just depends on the audience that you're speaking to.
I deeply care about
A lot of
having
people
an
in the
impact.
audience probably aren't very well educated in philosophy or epistemology or on notions of truth and how philosophers understand it.
So
Because
if you know
nominalism is like a very, very slight choice above some sort of Platonism amongst philosophers. So
I'm just saying, I do think that you care about the impact you have on the audience that listens to you. And, I would just think that if you know the audience that you're going in front of, choose to use the best words that are palpable for them to get your point across without throwing them off with things like truth doesn't exist, because that kind of shuts
I can't
people
help
off.
it if that throws people off. I
If
can't
you
help
know
it.
it,
That's on
if-
them, not me.
I don't know. It's we can move on, but I'm just saying.
This one from, do appreciate your question. Yerba Mate Talks. I know I'm saying it wrong. Can you let me know how to pronounce it?
Yerba mate.
Thank you.
Whoa, is that really how you pronounce it?
Yes, yerba mate.
Oh, I was way off then. I did
Yerba
the
mate.
Americanized one.
Yerba Mate Talks after show on Yerba Mate Talks open panel. Let's discuss the debate, and you can see that name in your in the live chat there, as well as thanks for your super chat that just came in from ITS Apologetics. Says the question was related to the resurrections. No laws of coding get broken when Google makes an update. It's the same things with miracles or the resurrection, Leo.
I'm not sure what laws of coding are, but I think that laws of nature are not violated. I think they're inviolable within the confines of what they're applicable to. So I would just disagree. I don't think that laws of nature are something like laws of coding, assuming there's such a thing as laws of coding, which I'm not sold on. So yeah, I guess that would be my response.
I think that's consistent with naturalism, right? If there's nothing outside the natural world, how could something be above a law of nature in any way that you want to speak of it? But I do think it assumes naturalism, but it is consistent.
Of course.
Yeah.
This one from, do appreciate it. I lost the name, but they said, Leophilius, it doesn't hurt your position to grant small arguments. Are denying that you have a brain? Are you denying that you have a brain?
Of course not. And I can grant certain arguments. There are certain points I will grant, but the points that I grant and don't grant in a discussion, I think kind of depend on what the points are, what the discussion is, where I intend to go, where I think my opponent might be going. There's a lot of things that factor into what I do and don't grant in the discussions that I have. Sometimes maybe I don't grant things that I do, and sometimes maybe I do grant things that I shouldn't.
You got it. This one from. Where did it? There it is. The Mirror Point TLI says for Wi-Fi, wow. If God's laws are intended to be broken, is abortion wrong?
Yeah, something can still be wrong, even if God intends for the wrong thing to happen. That would literally mean.
What do you mean when you say it's wrong?
In the sense that it breaks God's command.
And why is breaking God's commands wrong if he intends for people to do it?
Just definitionally.
What do you mean?
Definitionally, if we define wrong as breaking God's commands, then his intention doesn't matter.
Well, then that just seems uninformatively tautological. It's just saying, well, something is breaking God's commands if it's breaking God's commands. Where if what it means to be wrong is breaking God's commands, to say something is wrong is breaking God's commands. It's just to say that something is breaking God's commands if it's breaking God's commands. But that doesn't tell me whether I ought or
all
ought not
definitions
to
are
break God's
tautological.
commands. I don't think so.
Well, they break down to tautologies.
I don't think so. I think the meanings of terms are largely given by their intentions. Intentions with an S.
What do you mean?
So intention here is intension, and
Okay.
there's the intention extension distinction in like metaphysics of language and stuff like that. To put it a bit simply but still accurately, and again that this is the words are with an S, not a T. So the intentions of a term are the concepts in virtue of which the term means something, and the extensions of a term are the things that in virtue of the meaning of a term, the term can be extended to. So you might say that the intentions of the word cat are whiskers, meow, paw, tail, fur. The extensions would be things like Garfield, Tom from Tom and Jerry, things like that, things that are cats.
Okay. So then
the intentions are what the word means, and the extensions are the things that are the word, so to speak.
Cool. I appreciate that. I didn't understand. I didn't know those words, or I definitely thought you were saying intention. That threw me off. So thank you for explaining that. Now, just to make my point, when you say, like, if you give a definition of a book, and I'll give a super simplistic one of, I don't know, a collection of papers with words on them. Could be a wrong, bad definition, but then I ask you, well, what's a collection of papers with words on them? And you say, well, that's a book. And then I say, well, you're just saying a book is a book if they're the same thing.
Yeah, but I think that's informative.
Okay, it's the same way then with what I was saying earlier.
I don't see how that's informative.
Okay.
I guess in like, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I don't have to.
The Mirror Point C1I says, question for Wi-Fi, is abortion doing the will of God?
When you say doing the will of God, are you saying if you're conflating the law of God with the will of God, then you could say yes. But if you're saying God wills something, therefore you do it, that would be deterministically, and that would not follow.
You got it. That's it for our questions. Folks, I'm going to let our guests go. Check out their links in the description box. What are you waiting for? Their links are there, including at the podcast. So all of our debates on YouTube also end up as the audio version on the podcast, which you can find at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever podcast app you like. Modern Day Debate is there. We've made sure of it, like Pandora, iHeartRadio, like all of them. So find our guests linked in the description box of the podcast as well. And with that, want to say thank you for our guests. It's been a pleasure to have you, Wi-Fi Gospel, and thank you as well, Leo.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
It's always blessed.
It was amazing. I'll be back in just a moment, folks, letting you know about juicy updates. So stick around. Thanks, guys. That was amazing.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Leo. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, this was a good discussion.
I'm sure we'll see each other on some panel somewhere soon.
Oh yeah, for sure. We see each other around. It's always good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Since you know the man and I don't really know him.
I must run. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the meeting, but I'll appoint you as one of you as the hosts.
Okay.
There you
Okay.
go.
I was just gonna say really quick that I'd like to have a discussion with Joel at some point. And it doesn't have
Okay.
to be like a hosted debate. I'm willing to do that if that's like
Yeah.
the direction he wants to go. But a debate discussion with him, I think would be interesting. So
I know Joel well, so I can definitely ask him how he feels about it, and I'll let you know. What's the best way to reach you?
probably via email, and my email should be posted publicly on my YouTube channel. So
Cool. And my email I usually reach out with is just wifigospel@gmail, so you'll see it.
okay.
I know
Yeah,
sometimes
and
it's weird with
mine's
spam.
Gmail too. Yeah.
Cool. I'll
Alrighty.
now do you prefer, I mean, you'll say you'll do anything, but like with Joel, when he takes a debate, he likes like a 3-month, like he likes to really study for a debate.
Yeah, that's all
So it's
good.
okay. And then like as far as just like an off the cuff thing, we do random, they're pretty late. Like we usually start now on Monday nights. I don't know when the next one is.
See, I've wanted to join one, but the thing is,
Yeah.
I work, so I gotta be up at 6 in the
totally
morning,
understand.
and that's the thing is like if it happened Tuesday night because I don't work Wednesdays, I could do it, but he does it on Mondays.
Yeah, no, it's a tough dude. When we do it, sometimes we're up to like 3 in the morning. I work and it's
Mhm.
like I'll be so tired at work the next day.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I'll talk to him and see how he feels about it, and I'll email you.
Alrighty, sounds good. Thank you much. I
Cool.
appreciate
Yeah,
that.
I had a good conversation with you tonight, man. Have a good
Yeah,
night.
you too. Take it easy.
Bye. Oh, that was live. No, I didn't say anything. Nobody said anything sensitive, correct? Yeah, I'm going to liturgy tomorrow, so I don't have too much time, but you can hop up here. Paisios. You won't be able to click the link because it's vertical. Is that vegan gains? That's vegan gains if he lost all his gains. That's funny. He needs a Subway. Y'all saw him hitting the Benjamin? He hit that Benjamin pretty hard. Dude, listen, I used to smoke every day, all day, 5, 6, 7 blunts a day. I could not do anything. Yeah, I got you in the Discord. Sorry. I shared it in stream, but I got you on the Discord. I don't know how you can debate and be high, bro. I'd look like a complete retard. I promise. Drinking's different, right? Drinking gives you liquid courage. It's a social lubricant. Weed just makes you like not want to talk to anybody. At least most people, right? So I don't know how you can debate and smoke at the same time. Craig does it too. Craig's always hitting a bowl or something. What's up, man? Hold on, let me get you. Let me get a better view here. Boom.
How you doing,
What's up,
Alex?
bro? Good. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man.
Nice.
I just have a few things to say about the debate. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
I want to start out with the positives. I think the first section where you did, the presuppositions, what is knowledge, and all that stuff was amazing. I think you knocked it out of the park there, and I think he couldn't argue. He could just say no, you, no, you, no, you, no, you. You know.
Yeah.
But I think when it comes to the problem of evil, I really think you need to hone in on that because I think you did a little worse than you could have.
I agree. I don't think I did better than my last debate with Danny. I don't know if you watched that one. When it comes to the problem of evil, I was a Calvinist for 10 years up until 6 months ago. So like I used to deal with the problem of evil by just biting every bullet and not caring because that's what I thought scripture said. So like I shouldn't even be doing anything like that. That's why at the beginning I just said moral anti-realism or moral subjectivity, whatever. God has preferences, because even though I don't hold to that position, it stops people from being able to levy a contradiction if they can concur that it's a possible interpretation of Christianity, and it just nullifies the argument without me getting into it, because I bet you there's a badass defense from an Orthodox saint somewhere exactly on this issue, and I just need, but I need to learn it. But I'm not in a position to be debating like that, so I shouldn't.
I would
I knew going
recommend.
into this would be tough, but yeah.
There are a few different saints that talk about the problem of, violence in the Old Testament. There's a really good book by Father Stephen DeYoung called "God is a Man of War." I would recommend picking that up because it delves a little bit in the problem of evil, but more or less the topic is just violence in the Old Testament is the way it's framed. But I would also say that a good thing to deal with, problem of evil is to do the philosophy bro thing where you say, well, how do you even know what evil is? You have no
Right.
grounding morality without God. And that's where I would have took in the debate personally, but I know that
Yeah.
you were probably doing something else.
Well,
but
the
I would
only
look at it
problem
that way.
with that is he would just ask for my definition. He would say, I'm doing an internal critique on your worldview. How do you define evil?
Whatever God defines as evil in whatever moment he wills, which it would be in his nature. His nature is good, so whatever he determines is good is good.
Right. So then
That's
from
probably the
there,
best way.
from there, he would be able to run the argument.
Yeah.
Did you hear the chair portion,
Yeah.
the chair hypothetical?
Yeah, I heard.
So I've heard, this is the second time I've heard it. The
Oh, by
only
the
way
I'm
I've
gonna be going
really
up an elevator, so I might clock out.
Okay.
I gotta go up an elevator, but I'm still listening.
Cool. The only way I found to deal with it is to show that it's disanalogous. And that's how I tried to do it with saying, one, the chair has no agency in this situation. He granted that. So I don't understand how that's analogous with God, who has agency. And then in the way of a perfect chair destroying machine is not the same as a perfect machine that perfectly eliminates all chairs. Those are two different things. And when you change the hypothetical to a chair that perfectly eliminates all things, then I don't like it. It again strips agency because it must do this thing.
Yeah, the argument is just a bad analogy on the atheist part. I mean, I really think even if I was an atheist, I could probably come up with a better one because it's deep into the analogy that it has to destroy, which God does not have to destroy evil. He allows evil to exist for a purpose. I've had a lot of evil stuff done to me, and that's only grown my faith.
Right. He's trying to say being perfectly opposed to evil means either not allowing it or destroying it when it occurs.
Yeah, and it's a problem with the way that they think God operates, which is why it's very hard to argue with some atheists because they don't understand how God fundamentally operates within the world and within his own nature. And that's because the Orthodox worldview has not become standard. Most of these people know about Thomism and the Calvinism, and those arguments are good for those. I would personally use those against like Calvinism and stuff, but against the Orthodox worldview, there are better ways of understanding. That's why we say, in God's nature, he is perfectly good. In his actions, he is good too, but the actions that he takes are defined by his nature.
Yeah. And yeah, the way this debate was set up was a little weird. I was supposed to go against actually Monkey Boy and somebody else with a partner. The partner didn't want to do it with me. I don't know the guy, Apollos or something like that. But so he actually got David Paulman. So I'm actually interested in watching that debate. But then James was like, well, I want to get you one anyway. And then he scheduled it. And I thought it was going to be the same prompt because the prompt for that one was, it's even different now. But what it was stated was, what's more rational, theism or atheism? And so I thought it was going to be kind of like that. And then it wasn't. But I don't like to back out of stuff with James because he's super nice to me and gives me a lot of opportunity to debate on his platform. So I just went with it. But whenever I debate, I'm pretty strict about theism versus atheism. And then I would just run kind of the arguments that you saw tonight, or a more tag oriented argument for general theism, because I don't have, not only do I not have the proper defense for the problem of evil as I should, like tonight I relied basically on debate bro skills in order to not have to get crushed by it. But in the future, like I'm still not comfortable with even defending the orthodox worldview. So if I learn the orthodox defense of this and it's explicitly orthodox, now I run into trouble with being a wannabe orthodox apologist, which I don't want to do. So I just shouldn't be in a position where the title or prompt for my debate is it Christianity versus atheism. I should be wary of that as an inquirer.
Yeah, definitely. And that would be something I would talk to your priest about. And that would be something like I would just text James and tell him like, hey, next time make sure it's theism versus atheism. That's where I come from. And kind of stick away from the Christianity point, because the problem of evil doesn't work against a theist. It only works against a Calvinist and other such Christian apologists. It doesn't work against an Orthodox Christian. And what I would do too is like, do you have like Jay? Like, do you talk to Jay or like Alex or any of the other?
No, I have a few guys who are solid from Jim Bob's Discord who I talk to who could give me those answers. Like I don't. Do you know Schoolboy, right?
No, I do not. Forgive me.
No. He actually lives near me. I've been to his parish for a couple times. He's a really solid dude. He's got a blessing to do apologetics from his priest. So there are guys I can hit up for sure. I'm sure I could get a hold of Jay or get on his live stream one day. But last time I did, he's like, "Don't worry about it. Go to liturgy," because he knows of me, or at the time knew of me. And was like, yeah, I wasn't even inquiring at the time. And he was like, yeah, you just need to go to liturgy. I was like, all right, thanks, man.
Yeah, that's a good that's a good deal. But I would just talk to them and kind of ask like, hey, do you know of a really good book that tackles this issue, or do you know how, like, how would you tackle this argument? Or I would just ask them, how would you tackle the argument,
Yeah, and I could probably ask Jim Bob too. Although I hit him up twice to try to schedule a debate with him, and he left. I don't know if he saw it or not. Jim Bob, I'm gonna have to send him money, and bug him on stream. Yeah, but I am going to liturgy tomorrow, so I'm probably gonna get off now so I can get some sleep. I'm going to a new liturgy. That's not, dude. One blessing is like 5 or 6 parishes that are within like 15 minutes of me over here.
Do you live in like Fort Worth, Texas, by any chance?
No, I live on the East Coast.
Oh, East Coast is incredible. East Coast is, I think, where Orthodoxy started in like California, like East Coast area. So you'll find like hundreds of parishes.
That's West Coast.
And stuff. Oh crap! I got my coast.
Well, because it came through Alaska, right?
Yeah. So the way Orthodoxy came to America is it comes from Alaska, because there's like that little point where like they both, Russia and Alaska, kind of connect. And then from there, it went to California. That's where we got the first.
Gotcha.
It's not the first martyr, but it's like the second or third martyr for America. St. Peter the Elder, he was martyred in California.
Oh, wow. Really? There's Christian martyrs. Because like, were they martyred by Protestants?
Martyred by a Catholic, actually.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, America's religious history is interesting, man. You were not safe as an Orthodox or a Catholic in a lot of places. They didn't like it.
Especially not an Orthodox Christian, because actually Patriarch Tikhon had to send a letter to the American government telling them to stop murdering Orthodox Christians in Alaska. And the president sent a letter back saying, we don't care. We're going to wipe you guys out. And that's why Alaska, the population of Orthodox Christians in Alaska now is 8%. It used to be 80. but they went out and they just wiped them all out and replaced them all with Methodists and Seventh-day Adventists.
Man, that is, I never knew any of that. Huh.
Yeah, it's crazy the history of Orthodoxy in America. Like, we were just persecuted from the beginning. Like, after, like, because the U.S. government was like kind of open to Orthodoxy, but it was like ultimately it wanted to persecute them because honestly, you know, and a lot of people did not understand that Orthodoxy wasn't communism. So even then, you had a lot of people that were referring to the Russian church as communists, even though they were the most anti-communist people that you could ever find.
Yeah, just lack of information because they come from a certain place. So you assume they agree with that place's ideology.
Yeah, and actually, I'll tell you one more story and then I'll let you go. But my parish, the parish that I go to, was actually burned down by the Ku Klux Klan back in the 40s. And we had to build a completely new
Whoa.
church. Yeah,
That's crazy.
that's one of the reasons why Greek people kind of celebrate Black Lives Matter and BLM and MLK because our head bishop at the time of Martin Luther King was actually walking with him with his bishop cane, and, you know, Cossack and all that, because we were
Interesting.
also persecuted kind of the same way, even though we were Greek. So
Yeah. Not a lot of Black Greeks, I'm assuming.
no, it was just because America is not. It's funny because every migrant that ever comes to America gets persecuted by Americans
Yeah.
until they're like,
Yeah.
you know, America just bullies its migrants until they're like, all right, you good.
Yeah.
All right, by me. We're gonna bully the next guy. So that's what happened with the Greeks, and you know.
That's funny.
Anyway, brother, I'll let you go. Thank you for letting me on to talk to you about some stuff. But all in all,
Seriously.
dude, the forum is a good stay, bro. And I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
talk to my.
It's always a pleasure.
And I'm gonna talk to my parish priest tomorrow, and I'm gonna see if I can get the blessing to come on the show because I completely forgot that if I'm gonna talk about Orthodoxy, I kind of want a blessing. And then if
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, and no worries if not or anything, man. Seriously. We could always just talk privately about those things too. These are things that aren't just content for me, right? The Orthodoxy stuff. So either way, we'll talk.
Hey man, if you ever just want to sit down and just have a conversation, just text me like, hey, do you have a couple minutes to call? And I'm at work, but I can literally just call you and talk to you about what you need to talk to, man. I love you, Alex.
Sounds good. Love you too,
I
brother.
know that you're doing great, brother. Tell your priest
Thank
to
you,
pray
man.
for me, dog. I need the prayers.
I will.
God bless you.
God bless, man. Bye. All right. That link was just for my friend there. But I'm not in a position to argue for orthodoxy. Whoever just came up, Orthodox Church is lacking. I'm just an inquirer, man. But yeah, but Paisios, he found my channel, I think it was like 6 months ago, because he ended up going somewhere for about 3 months. But then he came back. Really cool guy, genuine person. I love talking to him. Just a really, really good heart, you know? You can tell. But he might come on the stream to do. I owe my audience a rock and sand stream. So I'm going to do that pretty soon. But yeah, maybe he'll join me and help me do that rock and sand stream. But have a good night, guys. Thanks for watching the debate. Appreciate y'all. And I'll see you soon.